Welcome to My Watches with Ben. I am so excited for this video. Bronze is awesome. On this channel, I talk about choices I made in my watch collecting hobby, as well as do score-based analysis. And that's what I'm doing today, score-based analysis of a watch type. Watch type today is the bronze dive watch. Today, I'm going to tell you what are the top 10 bronze dive watches out of 120 bronze dive watches. It's a spin-off of my 633 watch 18-hour series I did last summer 2024. There's a link in the description for that one. This video today is just bronze dive watches only. There are bronze dive watches in this video that weren't in the original series. It's more thorough. Even though this video today is only bronze, it is still quite long. Yeah, it's probably going to be 3.5 hours. You know how long it's going to be. I don't right at this moment, but if you're short on time, there's a timestamp in the description so you can go ahead and just check out that top 10 right now. That's what I recommend. If you think bronze is cool, this is the video for you. You're really going to enjoy seeing all these bronze dive watches. I personally love wearing bronze watches. I've got a couple. I only have a couple bronze watches, and I don't have a bronze dive watch. After doing all this work, I know exactly which bronze dive watch I want to get for my collection. Yeah, I personally love wearing bronze because it's just warmer, it's a softer look, it's more nostalgic. Yes, it smells coppery, and it's not as shiny. It actually kind of smells like the ocean a little bit. It's not necessarily a great smell. And it's also about 10% heavier than steel. I just find the material like friendlier and more comforting than steel. I've had this San Martin for a couple of years, and the patina is really pleasing. It's a nice brown color. Actually, it might be time for a refresh. You know, over time they get super brown, and then it's nice to refresh it. Yeah, so bronze is a lot of fun. If you've never seen one of my score-based videos, what I do is I give every watch in the video, all 120 watches, a score based on the specifications. Then I take the top scoring watches from every price category, as well as a bunch of wild cards I choose. And then at the end, they're pitted against each other in subjective categories, like character, brand strength, that sort of thing. So the final result is an amalgamation of like, do they have really good specs? Do they also have character? Do they also look really good? You can have a watch that makes it in the top 10 that's like not so great in one or two areas, but overall it's going to be the best. Because there is no such thing as a perfect watch. Not that I found. And regarding the selection of wildcards, this video, I've done so many of these scoring videos. This is the first one where I scored everything and then it wasn't exactly right. I could tell something was slightly off about the top 10. So I looked at all the wildcards that were kind of lowest performing at the end, and I swapped them out for different ones. And it changed the top 10. It made the top 10 better. So this top 10 is fantastic. It's very good. But yeah, let me give you the roadmap for the video, the different segments I'm going to cover. So we did the intro, then I'll talk about the characteristics of bronze, the material, and then I'll tell you tweaks that I made to the scoring system for this particular video from the original series. I'll just show like an overview of the price categories. And after that, I'll give you the top fives in the under $775 price category, and then show you all the remainder of the watches, and then do the same for the over $775 price category and the remainder of all those watches. And then there'll be the segment for the runoff rounds. You know, those rounds are character, color, handsomeness, lume, brand strength, and affordability. 6 runoff rounds at the end. After I've done all that, we'll have the top 10. And you'll be able to see what are the best bronze dive watches. All right, so I finished the intro, and now it's time to move on to the characteristics of bronze. What is bronze? Well, it's a metal. We all knew that, right? It's an alloy. It's a mix of two metals, copper and tin. The most common formulation you'll see for bronze dive watches is called CuSN8. The Cu is for the copper, Sn is for tin, and the 8 means there's 8% tin. The tin gives it strength and it gives it corrosion resistance, but it's more expensive than the copper, which I thought copper was more expensive than tin, but apparently it's the other way around. More rarely you will see CuSN6 bronze. There's a few watches that have that material in this video as well. It's not as good as the 8% tin. Makes me wonder, should they make one that's like half tin or something? I don't think anybody does that. So why would someone choose bronze for their dive watch? What is the point? Maybe for the following attributes of the metal: corrosion resistance, tensile strength, affordability, magnetic resistance, relative weight. And the only reason you would choose bronze for any of those, like if you want a heavier watch, you'd go bronze. Or if you want a softer or more expensive, if you want your watch to corrode more easily, that's a reason why you choose bronze. I'll show you some numbers. Let's look at the numbers. Okay, corrosion resistance. Most other materials are better than bronze, unfortunately. Bronze does form a layer of patina on the outside, which does protect it. So that's cool. It will turn green with salt water, though. The copper reacts badly to salt water. So it's going to require your attention, especially if you're going in the ocean. You're going to have to clean your bronze watch off afterwards if you don't want it to turn green. The bottom line, yeah, bronze is just below all these other materials. Platinum, gold at the top, tantalum, it might even be equivalent. I asked AI to rank these corrosion resistances. Yeah, 904 and 316L stainless steel are better than bronze for corrosion resistance. They're less prone to pitting from salt water due to the molybdenum in them. Technically, the polymer carbon resin, they don't corrode in salt water, but they do degrade from sunlight. So that's why AI put it here below stainless steel, but above bronze. Above bronze gold even. I said, how about 9 karat gold bronze? And they're like, yeah, polymer is actually better than that in terms of salt water. So here's where they are. 904 stainless steel is a lot better corrosion resistance than 316L, that sort of thing. Yeah, this is the Omega, the bronze gold 37.5%, 9 karat, other words. And then the gold bronze, that's Sinn does this one. That's 1/8 gold. But yeah, we talked about CUSN8, CUSN6. Silver somehow is worse than bronze. Silver is just like the worst. Apparently you take silver, you put it in some salt water, and it's just black, and it's just like horrible. So silver is not the best. I thought silver was awesome. Corrosion resistance is hard to pin down, honestly. Your silver's going to look nasty in the water. All right, density. Density is, one measurement of density is grams divided by centimeters cubed. So that's what we have here. That's what these materials are. Platinum, you see, is 21.5 grams per centimeters cubed. Okay, let's just take the ones we know. Bronze, 8.8. Steel, 7.9. So bronze is like 11% heavier. So the same size bronze watch as a steel watch. The bronze is going to be heavier. Denser just means the same size, it's going to be heavier. Titanium, as we all know, is like 40% lighter than steel for the equivalent size. And titanium's the lightest metal you'll ever see used for a watch case. Go on to some other characteristics of bronze. Magnetic resistance. This is the one area you might choose bronze over steel if you really, really need it to never become magnetized. Bronze cannot. It has no iron in it, and iron is what becomes magnetized. Technically, it's possible for stainless steel to become magnetized. Apparently, it's hard for that to happen even, because the way it's set up. The molybdenum or something. So yeah, it is impossible to magnetize your bronze. Toughness. I've always heard tensile strength. Well, that could be a lot of different things. We have a couple here. We have toughness and hardness. So I'll just do hardness first. Brunel, bronze is half as hard as steel, according to this. 90 HB instead of 180 HB. Not great. Toughness, only a quarter of the toughness of stainless steel. 316L stainless steel has 1,280 MPa, while bronze only has 310 MPa. So, not particularly tough. Stainless steel is just the king of toughness, so for the tensile strength. Okay, let's finally go to the price, because people, in fact, I posted that bronze Rolex that just came out. I posted that on Watch Crunch, and people were like, yeah, that doesn't seem right, because bronze is cheaper than steel. Bronze is a cheap metal, isn't it? Bronze is not a cheap metal. As you can see here, the normal 8% tin bronze is 3 times the expense of stainless steel. So these prices here are, you may wonder, why is it 7.5 cubic centimeters? I asked AI to calculate for me how much material do you need for a watch case, and the assumptions were like a 41 millimeter case that's 11 millimeters thick. So this is what it came up with for a case. You know, it doesn't really matter the exact size of the case. The point is, these prices are based on all the materials. I put them all in at the same time, so AI calculated the amounts for every single one of these. Does a stainless steel case really only cost 24 cents? Apparently for the raw materials, that's all it is. And the raw materials of bronze are 3 times as high. I do trust that the ratios are correct between these materials here. Titanium is apparently 5.5 times the price of stainless steel, the grade 5 titanium. Tantalum, this is why we don't see tantalum watches very often. They're 219 times the raw material price of 316L stainless steel. And then, yeah, of course, we've got our gold up here. Had to specify 18 karat because other gold would be much more expensive. But yeah, plastic cases are way cheaper. I'm sure that's why plastic watches are cheaper than steel watches. But here's some prices for you. Don't see forged carbon all that much because people probably don't realize how much more expensive it is than steel. So with all those things considered, just from like a materials quality standpoint, you know, if the use case is a rugged, robust watch that isn't going to turn funny colors and stuff, bronze wouldn't be your choice. Steel would actually be your choice. In virtually every way you can measure, steel is superior to bronze. The only potential advantage bronze has is that magnetic resistance thing. Steel is the more pragmatic choice for a dive watch. And that's why that's mostly what you see. Bronze is more expensive, it's heavier, it's weaker, it's softer, it's more susceptible to corrosion. So why would anybody ever choose bronze for a dive watch? Why am I going to get a bronze dive watch after this video? Because it's cool. That's why. That's the only answer that is defensible, is you get the bronze dive watch because it's cool. The rule of cool trumps everything else. Bronze is a warmer tone, has the vintage look to it. It has a lot of character the steel doesn't have. So it's really just about the look. It's an alternative to the tried and true. Enthusiasts really like to see how the color changes over time. On the wrist, it looks really cool in my opinion. Yeah, the San Martin is one of my most complimented watches due to the bronze, in my opinion. The charming character of the bronze. It looks different. Ultimately, watches are accessories, and the primary question when choosing an accessory is, does it look good? So if you think the bronze looks bad, then you're probably not going to get a bronze dive watch. If you like how bronze looks, there are metric ton of choices right now. Bronze was a fad, and I do think it is declining. Many brands are discontinuing their bronze models. That's happening a lot right now. At this exact moment, there's a ton of bronze options. I think that is going to change in the future. I predict in a couple of years, there are going to be way fewer bronze dive watches on the market that you can get new. But yeah, let's talk about the character just for a moment. Let me go back to that. The character of the bronze watch is very important. I put out a question on Watch Crunch. I prepared this mock-up of the Rolex. The Rolex isn't real. It's not a real watch. I prepared this mock-up of a bronze Rolex, and I asked people what they thought of it. Most people did not like it, and I don't particularly like it either. The Rolex Submariner case is not the bronze aesthetic. And yeah, the hands here are silver. They should be bronze hands as well, or just gold tone hands. But there's something off about this. Just the shape of it, it's a little bit too slick. You look at a successful bronze watch, the most successful bronze watch there ever was, the Panerai Submersible Bronzo. It's rounded, it's got soft edges, it's got some funkiness to it, it's nostalgic, it's warm, all these things. You look at the Rolex, it's not warm. There's not really nostalgic about it. This one's fresh. The Rolex Submariner's more fresh, it's more modern. You kind of need something a little bit more retro to really nail that bronze look. So in that Watch Crunch post, I also included, I just bronzified 5 random watches. You know, we've got the Rolex Submariner date. It does look pretty cool, but it doesn't really nail the bronze aesthetic. It's sort of just like an alternative to the normal Rolex Submariner. It wasn't designed as a bronze watch. And I don't think the Rolex brand goes with bronze at all. I don't think they should ever do that, personally. Fortis, like I originally did orange on this. That's something I learned. Bronze watches don't work with all colors. Orange looks absolutely garbage to me with bronze. So, you know, with a gray chapter ring, maybe that's okay. It doesn't look right. It just doesn't look like a bronze watch. You know, the bezel is just too slick. It doesn't match the character of the metal. Grand Seiko, this one maybe could work. This is the closest one I found. Obviously, the hands would have to change. The hands and the indices would also have to be this gold tone. Then I think it might work. And the bezel also. I think this is a contender. The Grand Seiko SLGA 023, that's the best that I found of these ones. Blancpain 50 Fathoms, it just doesn't work. Maybe a little because it's kind of retro. Sinn 105, maybe. My point in showing you these is just to say, you can't just make a normal watch bronze and have it make sense. You can tell the difference, and you'll see as we go through, watches that were designed as bronze watches will look better. Now I'll explain the scoring system. If you want my full description of the scoring system, check out that first video in the original Dive Watch series. For the bronze series, I made a lot of tiny tweaks to the scoring system. As I established already, the use case of a bronze dive watch, it's sort of like looks first and utility second. I wanted to keep both important. So obviously the score is based on utility largely, and then I do subjective stuff at the end. I tweaked the scoring system so that it wouldn't penalize aesthetic choices as much. If you are choosing a bronze dive watch, you're not necessarily going for the ultimate tool watch. If you were doing that, you would choose steel or titanium or forged carbon, something like that. So here's some changes I made, just the bullet points. So I did a few tweaks to the water resistance penalties, kind of softened that. I made a bigger bonus for a locking lever. That Panerai submersible has that characteristic locking lever. A lot of these really bronzy looking watches, they have weird, devices attached to them. It kind of gives it that character. So I gave a bigger bonus for that. Yeah, anti-reflective coating, Swiss movements, those also get a bonus in this video, just improving the scoring system. There's a much smaller penalty for watches that lack hash marks, because that Panerai Bronzo, that is the ideal bronze watch. In my opinion, that it sets the standards for others to follow, and that doesn't have minute hash marks on it. And it's not a trivial issue. Like it's part of the character of the watch. It would totally change it if you put minute hash marks on it. So I still think it's bad to be missing the minute hash marks, but I had a humongous penalty on it before. It was a -9 before, now it's a -5. Much smaller penalty. Overall, there's less of a focus on the Thule features right now. Gave a bonus for small seconds. That gives it that vintage feel as well. There's a smaller penalty now for a lack of a rotating bezel. I said the rotating bezel was a hallmark of a dive watch, and it is. It absolutely is. There was a humongous penalty for not having a rotating bezel. I've softened that for this one so that these quirky bronze watches would have more of a chance to still be okay without the bezel, without the turning bezel. And I probably will do a video in the future just looking at dive watches that have no rotating bezel, because there actually are a lot of them. There's also a bonus this time for relief bezel, or just another type of a bronze bezel with applied marks on it, like that Bronzo, like the Panerai. Larger sizes are also okay. That Panerai submersible is 47 millimeters, at least the original one. They make it now in 42 millimeters as well, but the original one was 47. And I think that's okay for bronze. I think it's okay. Yeah, this bronze watch I have is 50 millimeters. I should put it on. There we go, 50 millimeters. Yes, it's ridiculous, but bronze is okay. It's okay if it's ridiculous. I think it's kind of cool to have a humongous watch. Yeah, I softened the penalty for gigantic watches. And also smaller ones too. Like size, I just softened that a little bit. Strap, I made a lot of changes to the straps. Bracelet is obviously not as good. There's only a few watches that actually have a bronze bracelet, but it's not like a bonus the way it was with the original series. Leather is where it is at for bronze watches. They just look so cool on leather, and so I actually gave a leather bonus for bronze dive watches. Again, taking my cue from Panerai. They hit on something everybody missed before. And so I penalized silicone. I think silicone is the wrong look for a bronze dive watch. I don't think it's the right thing. So silicone actually gets a little penalty on this scoring system. So that was all the scoring system update. I actually did make a lot of changes to it for this video. But now I'll show you the price categories. Oh, here's the overall distribution of the 120 dive watches. You know, how many got a good grade, how many got an okay grade, and how many got a bad grade. And 37% of them are good grades with the tweaks I made to the scoring system. On the original scoring system, it would not have looked this rosy, I'll tell you that much. 33%, a third of them have an okay grade, and then 3/10 have this bad grade here. Red means I don't recommend it. And you're gonna see some watches in here that it's like, oh man, that's a famous watch. We can't recommend them all. I think this kind of a distribution makes sense with data in general. You know, they can't all be winners. And so the way I set up the scoring system, there's some losers in here, and we'll certainly see that as we go through. But yeah, the first category is under $775. In that category, 37% not recommended for the ones under $775. Let me show you what that looks like. In the under $775 price range, what you're gonna see is homages and micro brands. It's just homages and micro brands. That's what you see. Not very much original, but if it's original, it's gonna be a micro brand doing it. For whatever reason, like Seiko just doesn't make a bronze watch. I really, really looked. But here we go, we've got the Steel Dive Seiko Tuna, Heimdallr Seiko SKX, 54 Captain Willard homage, the Hruadland homage of the Breitling Avenger. Breitling doesn't make this in bronze. The Marinez homage of the Doxa 300T. Doxa does not make a bronze version of their sub 300T. Steel Dive is actually homaging in the center here. They're homaging Corrigia. So that's kind of interesting. That's not a particularly well-known watch. Steel Dive just makes so many watches. There's no way I could include... Well, I could have included all the Steel Dives, but that would have been like 10 more Steel Dive watches if I included their full catalog. There's a lot of different versions. I think I have like 5 or 6 in here. So they're by far the most prolific maker of bronze watches is Steel Dive. But yeah, we've got a few micro brands, Boldr, Notice. There's much more than what you're seeing on the screen, but over $775. This distribution is looking better. This distribution is way more to the left. You're going to see a lot more good grade watches over $775. The Bs and the B minuses, those sorts of things. 42% are good grades, 35% okay grades, and only 23 not recommended once you get over $775. Yeah, again, compare that to the under $775. Very different chart here. Once you go over $775, that's where you get the big ones. The ones we're familiar with, the Tudor. If Rolex made a watch, it would be in this category. But Sinn, the Sinn T50 gold bronze. The Panerai submersible here, the Bronzo, Longines, Oris. The Omega bronze gold, the 9-carat gold. And there's that Corrigia that the Steel Dive was homaging. Yeah, some beautiful watches. More expensive though. All right, now that I've been over the price categories, now I'm going to give you the top 5 bronze dive watches under $775. In 5th place is the Boldr Odyssey Bronze Serpentine. $649, 45.5 millimeters across, and 500 meters water resistance. And I mean, this thing looks really cool. The one on the screen is not in their current catalog. The one in their current catalog is slightly different. It has a relief bezel, like fully bronze, that sort of thing. You can still get this one though, the one with this cool bezel. So I put up the one I like the best, which is this Serpentine one. The scores are the same for both of them, the old one and the new one. But yeah, oh man, I love these applied indexes on the bezel, the 15, 30, 45. Of course, reminiscent of that Panerai, the Bronzo. I forgot to mention, if there's a good green one, I always put the green one because I think that is the way to go with bronze. I think green is the best color for bronze. But yeah, it's got a helium escape valve. 500 meters water resistance is more than you need. 6 o'clock date looks really cool. I don't like the cheesy Rolex style helium escape valve thing here. On the new one, they take that out. They put the minute Arabics. That's one reason why the scores are the same with the old one and the new one. New one has some improvements. I like these crown guards. Case is really cool looking. I love these angular shapes here on the case. Lume is great on this. You get lume on that bezel. Looks totally great. Total score of 83. In fourth place is the Steel Dive SD 1945S Deep Dive. $359, 46 millimeters across, 3,000 meters water resistance. And it's a thick one, 15 millimeters thick. So the 3,000 meter thickness, there are only 7 in that huge dive video that had that thickness, and the average was 17. So this is well under the average thickness for 3,000 meters water resistance. So I guess that's a good thing. The color is off here. I don't care for that kind of orange look. It's not right. These guys are copying the Carigia. Carigia is like $8,000. So if you really like the Carigia look, which I really do, it looks so cool. Here's the Steel Dive. Steel Dive is a viable choice. No date on it though, unfortunately. I love these applied markers on the bezel. I think that is such a cool look for a bronze watch. Yeah, it's got this crown cover thing. It just, extra protection. It just looks really cool is the main reason to do this. I don't know how heavy it is. I'm sure it is crazy heavy. Lume is good. Lume is fantastic. Lume Chapter. Actually, that is a change to the scoring system as well. I didn't mention. I added that. Meaning you can tell the exact minute it is. The exact second. You can see that in the dark. Very cool to have all these marks illuminated. It's quite rare, actually, to have... Usually, you only see that on full lume dials. But occasionally you see it like this when they literally lume every single mark here. That's very cool. So, great lume. I mean, Steel Dive does a fantastic job. You'll see where bronze watches are concerned, Steel Dive does a great job. Their name is not so great, but they make a ton of cool bronze watches. Score of 84. In third place is a weird one, the Citizen ProMaster BN0163-00H. $277, 44 millimeters across, 200 meters water resistance. Yeah, Citizen making a bronze watch. That's surprising. It's not designed as a bronze watch, though. This is something else. The gray dial does not look right to me whatsoever. This whole thing is off. It really just doesn't work for me. This doesn't match. The second hand, it's yellow for some reason, and then the red and the gray. It's too much going on. These colors on the bezel are not quite right either. I don't know. I mean, I love Citizen. I'm such a huge fan of Citizen. I have several Citizen watches, but I could not with this one. I could not. I've got the Skyhawk. I've got the Whale Shark dive watch. I have the Altachron. It's like a hiking watch. Yeah, this is not a Citizen, I think is a good idea. But they did it. It's not very thick because it's a solar quartz. Not very many solar quartzes with these bronze watches, actually. It seems to be less common. I love a solar quartz movement as well. It's just not doing it. It's not capturing the bronze aesthetic for me. But maybe you love it. It's one of the ones in the conversation. Let's look at the lume. Lume is cool. You have green and blue. Love when they mix the colors. I think you should always do 2 colors. Because lume is for fun. Total score of 85. In second place is the Steel Dive Ploprof SD 1969. $389, 56 millimeters across, 1,200 meters water resistance. Man, one of these Steel Dive Ploprofs is definitely in my future. They're the only ones that have a functioning plongeur of the Ploprof homages. The other ones this is like a helium escape valve or something. This one, you push it down to unlock the bezel, so you can freely turn it left or right. So cool. It actually has a date. I think the real Plongeur Professionnel does not have a date. Omega doesn't make a bronze either. It works in bronze. I'm going to get a steel one, though, not this one. Look at the lume, though. Look at that lume. Orange dot. The lume is fantastic on this. Full lume bezel. Nice big minute hand. That's going to last forever. Silicone, that's where they lose me. And that's why I want the steel one, because I think the shark mesh bracelet is the way to go with the Ploprof. You're going to want that for the weight. This one, particularly, the bronze, is going to be heavier even than the steel. Omega makes theirs in titanium because this case is ridiculously massive. So ridiculously massive case and then silicone strap. It's going to be so top heavy. It's going to be, I think it's going to be uncomfortable this way. That's why, you know, I think you should have the shark tooth bracelet, shark mesh. I mean, if it wasn't so thick and huge, it would definitely crack 90 easily. But it's a huge one. It's just a huge watch, huge funky watch. And apparently there is like a passive helium escape valve on this thing. So that's cool. Yeah, you get anti-reflective coating on the crystal. Tons of good stuff here. Again, Steel Dive is killing it with bronze watches. And they're not too crazy expensive. Of course, they are more expensive than other Chinese watches, but they're doing something special here with the bronze, in my opinion. Total score of 85. In first place is the Evox DV2-03 bronze. It's $439, 47 millimeters across, 300 meters water resistance. This is outrageously thin, 10 millimeters thick. And when you see this thing on the side, that is true. They actually made this thing 10 millimeters thick, like the whole thing, top to bottom. Insanely thin. It has magnetism protection. You see the apostrophe with the divers. It is ISO certified. It is an automatic movement watch that's 10 millimeters thick. That's hard to do even if it isn't a dive watch. This one has 300 meters water resistance. It's an amazing technical feat they've accomplished here. I love the accented minute hand, the orange. Lume is cool. It's looking very pale in color. It's very cool lume pattern and thickly applied. The style of it is the only thing where I balk. Oh, cool, 10 o'clock crown too. They have the numerals every 5 minutes, but they also have the marks all 60 minutes. Bezel is very functional. It's just a really cool darn watch. If you like the look of it, definitely go for it. Yeah, I think the green is like a camouflage or something. Doesn't quite look right to me. Something too funky about this one for me, but I definitely applaud them for the specs on this thing. It's amazing, the 10 millimeters thick. All right, those were the top 5, and now I'll go through all the rest of the watches under $775. In 6th place is the Marinez Samui Brass, $450, 42 millimeters across, 300 meters water resistance. Yeah, the price is really high for these homages. Yeah, I think the black looks the best on this. They offer some weird colors in the brass. Orange in particular does not look good with brass, in my opinion. Even turquoise is not looking so great. I think the only viable colors really for this in brass are the black, the white, and maybe the blue. But I would not get the red, pink, orange, or pale blue, personally. Really cool how you have a multi-function bezel here. You get your no deco times on the outside. Yeah, those are probably meters. Yeah, 20 meters, you can be there for 50 minutes without having to do decompression stops. Recessed crown is nice. It's a little bit protected there. Get your date. Let's look at the lume. Lume is fine. It's not the best lume on the planet, but it's not the worst either. Good lume. Score of 83. In 7th place is the Octopus Kraken Retiesi Braun Diver. $289. 43 millimeters across, 500 meters water resistance. I love this little sun counterbalance on their second hand. That looks really cool. Let's look at that lume. Lume is really good on this one. You get a relief bezel. Those are great for bronze. That gets a little bonus, a 1-point bonus. It's a bronzy thing to do, to have that relief bezel, in my opinion. Yeah, it's a good looking watch. It's actually a millimeter thinner than average for 500 meters water resistance, so that's good. Cool option. Apparently it has a helium escape valve even. Total score of 83. In 8th place is the Steel Dive SD1950S. $359, 44 millimeters across, and 3,000 meters water resistance. I think this is homaging the Zelos Abyss. Zelos makes a watch that looks just like this thing. I think I only have one Zelos watch in this video, and that's because every time I go on their website, everything is sold out. In fact, the first time I did the video, one of theirs was in the top 10, and then I went on the website just in the final thing, and it was sold out. I'm like, I don't feel right about that. So I took that one out. Yeah, it might have been the Zelos Abyss, actually. Anyway, we're talking about the Steel Dive SD1950S, and 3,000 is insanely deep. The average thickness for a 3,000 meter dive watch is 17.5. So this is a couple meters thicker than average. Yeah, look at this thing on the side. It is humongous. It's a hamburger of a watch here. You get your hour Arabics here. That's nice. Really cool hands. I really like that. It's going to be reflective as all get out. You can tell from this picture. Lume is so good on this. Lume is awesome on the Zelos Abyss as well, and they're just copying that. So yeah, great Lume. Although they could have put little lines here in black, and then you would be able to see Lume Chapter. So that would have been cool. They don't offer it on leather though. Total score of 82. In 9th place is the 54-6105 Homage, $309, 44 millimeters across, 300 meters water resistance. And this is the Captain Willard. I think they may call it a turtle. It's not a turtle. Yeah, here's the turtle. Here's the Willard. That's how you know the difference. Sorry, this is really poor quality image. But yeah, the Willard has this weird crown thing. The turtle is like this. So this is a Captain Willard Homage. Full bezel markings. That's cool. Let's look at the Lume. Lume is okay. It's decent Lume. Second Lume looks pretty weak, but it's pretty typical, I'll be honest. Very thin on this. Surprisingly thin, only 10.4 millimeters thick. I don't like that the greens don't match, and the silicone looks horrible with it. That should not be the case. It should be on brown leather, and these should match each other. That's my opinion. So this wouldn't be on my radar as a watch to get. It's funny, the Seiko designs actually do work well with bronze, a few of them. This Captain Willard actually looks pretty cool as a bronze watch. There's another one later we'll see that looks better than this one. And if you want a bronze Seiko watch, Seiko doesn't make one, so you have to go with the Homage. Total score of 82. In 10th place is the Revue Tommen 17571, $604, 42 millimeters across, 300 meters water resistance. I actually really like how it looks, except the problem with this brand is it's super low effort. They're just cranking out these. It's a Swiss watch. You get a Swiss automatic movement. It's just Rolex Homage. That's what they do. But they don't even put in the effort to like make the hands match. Why do we have silver hands with this? It looks so bad. Magnification is poor. Yeah, I would respect these guys a lot more if they did anything original. I mean, okay, Rolex doesn't do this. The exact one we're looking at, that's not something Rolex does. They need to do a little bit more than this. But this is one of the cooler ones in their catalog. I actually do really like this color of green with the bezel. Lume is not that great. This pip is going to fade super fast, super quickly. Good thickness, only 12 thick, just like the Rolex Submariner actually. Yeah, the average for 300 is 13.7. So this is almost 2 millimeters thinner than average for 300 meters water resistance. Total score of 82. In 11th place is the Heimdallr SKX Bronze. $199, 42 millimeters across, 200 meters water resistance. The SKX case does not work in bronze, in my opinion. Well, it works. Okay, it works. I don't think you should do it, though. And the SKX, they've got this white printing on the black dial. It's clashing with these yellow hands. That's a problem. The Lume needs to match. If the Lume matched, maybe this would be okay. What I'm looking at right now is hurting my eyes. It's making me sad. And then the bezel being all yellow, no good. Lume looks okay. Lume looks good, actually. If you just want a bronze SKX, Heimdallr might be the only way to go. There might be some other Chinese bronze watches out there. I tried to get them all, but there might be some other brand doing an SKX. I think this is the only one, though. And I would not get the yellow or the orange. Green is sort of okay. It's a sunburst, though, so it doesn't... Total score of 82. In 12th place is the Zelos Hammerhead version 3. $449, 44 millimeters across, 300 meters water resistance. It's not in stock. Zelos makes so many bronze watches, I felt like I had to at least include one of their watches in the video. They drop them every once in a while, and they sell out very quickly. Yeah, they're part of the conversation. They're part of the market. The fact that you can't buy so many of their watches, I didn't include the Swordfish. I didn't include the Abyss. There might be another one that they have in bronze, but I did include the hammerhead, and it looks so darn cool. I really like it. This color doesn't seem like it would go with the bronze, but I really like it. This emerald green, there's something about it. It really does work with the bronze. So I like that. I listed the colors, and there's no green one down here. That's so funny. That was clearly an oversight. I think the blue one looks pretty cool too, but the green looks really nice. And they color match the date wheel. Zelos does fantastic stuff. It's about 1 millimeter thicker than average for 300 meters water resistance. You've got a recessed crown here. The case just kind of protects the crown. It's sunken in, so I like that. Look at the loom. Totally ridiculous. You've got that loom chapter ring thing. I said full loom. It's the same scoring as a loom chapter. Look at the loom on the bezel too. Like, it's a loom monster if there is such a thing. It's just breathtaking. Now, is it going to last all night? Probably not. Like, the bezel will probably fade pretty quickly, these little squares and stuff. Loom doesn't really get much better than this. This is breathtaking. And it is a wild card. This is my first wild card. It will be in the final runoff. Have a chance to be in that top 10. You even get loom on the crown. Yeah, Zelos makes some beautiful watches. Total score of 81. In 13th place is the Stalingrad Commander. $235, 43 millimeters across, 200 meters water resistance. Get a date, I guess, like the SKX. Drill pattern on the crown here. Fantastic loom. Looks like these are applied loomed blocks for the numbers here. Full loom bezel. Beautiful, beautiful loom there. This is a cool one. Case isn't particularly bronze to me. It just seems like a normal watch case. They're not really leaning into that bronze aesthetic, but it works. It's not like clashing with the case. It is kind of rounded here and that sort of thing. Not totally getting the bronze character is all I'm saying. Very decent watch and not very expensive at all. Only $235. Total score of 81. In 14th place is the Signum Cero Bronze. $449, 40 millimeters across, 200 meters water resistance. And at 13.4, it's about spot on for the thickness, average thickness. It's not too crazy thick. This is one of the cool ones that has a loomed date. That's a very rare feature on a watch. Very cool. I mean, you can buy loomed date discs for the NH35. Yeah, that's something you can do. But here you get it on there. It's a little more advanced to change that date disc. At least it's advanced for me. I attempted it, is what I'm saying, and I failed in my attempt. The problem was I had the date disc for the wrong movement, so it's not going to succeed if you have the wrong date disc. But yeah, the stone dial, the purple one looks really good on this one as well. Total score of 80. In 15th place is the Hruadland Avenger F012. $238, 43 millimeters across, 200 meters water resistance. The Chinese version of the California dial, that is so cool. Man, you get like 12 thumbs up from me for doing a California dial with the you're doing a Shanghai dial or something. That is very cool. The Breitling Avenger design works really well for bronze. It looks so cool. I love the engravings in the bezel for these numbers, the stencil numerals. It's looking so cool. I really do like the Breitling Avenger. And Breitling doesn't make one, which I've said in the past, if you're going to homage something, do something that the original manufacturer didn't do. And to me, that justifies it. Like, Breitling actually doesn't make this. So they did something fresh. Sort of fresh. The loom is so cool. They loomed those Mandarin symbols here. That's really cool. There's even loom opposite the date window. Love to see that. It's kind of 50-50 whether a watch will have that or not. So I like to see it. And you get your military time as well on the outside. It's a good choice. 43 is still wearable for most people. And I've chosen it as a wild card for the final runoff. Total score of 80. In 16th place, looking much better than that other Captain Willard we saw, is the Addy's Dive Willard AD2104. It's a wild card. Only $129. How are they making any money on this? I have no idea. We'll just call it 44 millimeters across, 200 meters water resistance. If you want a Willard homage, Addy's Dive is the way to go, in my opinion. It looks really nice. Looks much better than the 54. It's still on the silicone, and I would change that personally. I would put it on black leather. I think that's better suited to the bronze aesthetic. But some people love silicone. Part of that is just that I really don't like the silicone. But as I mentioned with the previous one, when you have a heavy bronze watch head on silicone, it's gonna flex a lot and, in my opinion, be uncomfortable. So it's nice to have the rigid leather. The lume on this is so good. Full lume bezel, nice big chunks of lume. I mean, Seiko designs a good watch, so when people rip off Seiko, they end up with a good watch design at least. Love all the dots on the bezel. This is a great one. Total score of 80. In 17th place is the Ixdao PT5000 Pelagos. $289, 39 millimeters across, 200 meters water resistance. And the PT5000 is a clone of the ETA 2824, I believe. It's a Chinese clone of a Swiss movement, but that's why it's thinner, 11.5 thick. That's nice. And Tudor does not make a bronze Pelagos. No, they don't make a bronze Pelagos. They make a bronze Black Bay. And we'll see the Black Bay 58. We'll see that Black Bay 58. But they don't make the bronze Pelagos. No date on this, unfortunately. That would have been nice to see. I do like this symbol here. And the kind of Chinese-looking name. I like that. If you're a Chinese watch, nobody's confused about that anymore. We understand that Chinese brands make watches. Just have a kind of a Chinese name. I think that's cool. I prefer that to like when they bastardize some English thing. Here's the lume. Looks okay. They didn't fully turn off the lights, so it was hard to get good contrast on this one. Cool option, score of 80. In 18th place, perhaps the only 36 millimeter watch in this video is the Deficiano Barracuda. $549, 36 millimeters across, 300 meters water resistance. Yeah, only 36 millimeters across. Great green on this. Is that a British racing green or forest green? I don't know my greens totally. This one works really well, or you know, in this lighting, it looks fantastic with this bronze. I really like what I'm seeing here. Lume looks really good on this as well. And like I said, you do get that lume with the date. So that's always a joy to see that. You get minute Arabics, full bezel, just the slashes all the way around. It's looking really good. Probably the best choice if you really want a small bronze dive watch is this Deficiano Barracuda. Other than that, you know, it's probably an NH35, and then you're paying $550. And it's Deficiano. Like, who is that? So when you consider everything together, it's not seeming like a great proposition. It's a lot of money for a very obscure brand I had never heard of until just now. Total score of 80. In 19th place, the last of the good grades, 19 out of 19, is the Steinhardt Ocean 1 Bronze. $523, 42 millimeters across, 300 meters water resistance. The colors are repelling me strongly. The colors on this are just not good. The black with, is it white mixed with Fotina? And then you've got, it's really not working. It's really, really bad. Even their fonts, like this Ocean 1, is that Helvetica or something? And it's all lowercase. It's not for me. Let's look at the lume. There's that lume. Yeah, this one's not for me. Total score of 80. In 20th place is the Steel Dive 1956S Submersible. $354, 45 millimeters across somewhere, and 1,000 meters water resistance. That's what it says on the dial. And yeah, I don't think they call it the submersible, but it looks just like that Panerai submersible. Not exactly. The case is a little bit more rounded. I think the Panerai is slightly more square with the cushion case. You know, there's differences with the Panerai, but it's very similar to the Panerai Bronzo. Let's look at the lume. Awesome lume. Except the hands. Hands are super weak. I wonder if they just, however they charged it up, you know, it's showing that the hands are dimming much faster than the indexes. And ideally you'd want it the other way. I wish they had made the hands bigger on this. They just need thicker hands. I think that would be okay with the Panerai design. Just a little bit thicker would be nice. And there's no lume on the second. So that's why it's not passing. Just put some lume on the second, and this thing has a much higher grade. But they do have all the marks to the 15. You have the applied markings on the bezel. That's really cool. It's got this really cool crown lock. Oh man, that is so sweet. Very thick though. Okay, let's look at 1,000. The average thickness for 1,000 meter dive watch is 15.7. So 15 is almost a millimeter thinner than average for 1,000 meters. Who would have thought? It's kind of funny. But yeah, it's a really cool option from Steel Dive. One of so many. Yeah, like I said, they probably have like 20 different bronze watches that they make. I think I only included 5 or 6. So Steel Dive could have more in this video. If you're looking for a bronze watch, please just page through Steel Dive's catalog and see what they have, because I didn't include them all in the video. I just didn't want it to be Steel Dive overload. Great, awesome looking watch. Oh, and it has a sandwich dial too. I didn't mention that. This may be the first sandwich dial. So there's little cuts here, and the loom is beneath. Total score of 79. In 21st place is the Wicked Watch Pearl Diver. $444, 40 millimeters across, 200 meters water resistance. The one you see on the screen has some crazy pattern on the dial. I don't know if this is some stone or something. I only show silver and purple dials, or gray and purple. And this is clearly some kind of blue. I think the blue looks the best, that's why it's on the screen. But they've been making this one for a long time, and in the past they've had so many different colors. It's really cool. I think this is kind of the main thing they do. I don't know, I'm sure they have other watches, but this is a really cool one. Let's look at the loom. Good grief. Really cool loom. At first I thought maybe these individual marks were loomed, but it stops halfway. So I'm going to say they aren't. I did not give it the loom chapter ring. If I had, it would have been a good grade, be up to 80, but it's powerful loom either way. Full loom bezel, loomed hands and indices, but big applications of loom. That's the main thing. You get anti-reflective coating on the crystal. I really like this bezel that's kind of this rounded bezel, and it's a bronze bezel. That's awesome. I think bronze watches do look better with bronze bezel. There's no date on this. That hurt it with the score. There's no numerals on the bezel. I think it would be nice on the bezel to have the 15, 30, the 45. You could have those printed right here. Very cool choice, and it's going to be a wild card. Total score 79. In 22nd place is the Steel Dive 1939S. $439, 47 millimeters across, 300 meters water resistance. Different kind of a crown lock here. It's not the same as that Panerai one. It's a different sort of thing. It's a little weird that it's steel. This one doesn't have a rotating bezel, and it's the highest score you're going to see for a watch with no rotating bezel. There's really only one other one that even gets a passing grade without a rotating bezel. So yeah, I probably will do a video just with dive watches with no rotating bezel with kind of a different scoring system to account for that. And we'll just see how that, I'll just do a different video, but it'll include things that are not bronze because there weren't that many in the bronze world. It's like 5 or something, maybe 7, 5 to 7, something like that. But this is kind of an original design. There's Steel Dive also does a no rotating bezel watch that's an homage of the batiscafo. You'll see the batiscafo later. So, but yeah, this one's circle. And I'm sorry, I really looked for a long time to get a picture of this just head on, and I could not find one. You can only find them at weird angles. Or when it's straight head on, it's just reflecting all the light in the world. You can't even really see what the dial looks like. It's really thick though, which is bizarre because it doesn't have a rotating bezel. Like, why is it so thick? 16.1. Yeah, the average for 300 meters water resistance is 13.7. It's almost 2.5 millimeters thicker than average for 300 meters water resistance. Loom is okay. It's not going to win any awards, that's for sure. In fact, I remember in the final runoff, it's one of the worst looms of all. Total score of 79. In 23rd place is the Vancouver Watch Corp Crossfire. $299, 43 millimeters across, 200 meters water resistance. Cool shape they got here. It's got the cushion shape. It has the double markings at 12. Those two things give a submersible vibe. The lugs look like a submersible as well. But then it's got some unique stuff. You've got these crown guards. You've got this arrow for the hour hand. You've got this really pointed pike sort of thing with the second hand with a circle counterbalance. You've got this, their logo's really interesting. So it differs. It kind of, I mean, it's really sort of like, it's like what homage is supposed to be, where you're just copying some design elements. So they did a good job with that. Vancouver Watch Corp did. They used to be called Cobra Caliber, but now they're Vancouver Watch Corp. Color match date wheel. Cool micro brand. Lume is looking great on this. You get all the lume to the 15 mark, but then none after that. And that is kind of weird. I think they should have just done a full lume bezel, meaning every 5 minutes afterwards also have the lume. Oh, but then it would be white all the way around. Yeah, aesthetically, I do think this is better. So I take that back. I like that they stopped the lume here. I think that works better for this particular watch. Leather looks really cool on this one too. Score of 78. In 24th place is the Steel Dive Tuna Marine Engineer SD 1975S. $185, 47.5 millimeters across, 300 meters water resistance. Marine Engineer, one word. An homage to the Seiko tuna, but of course Seiko does not make a bronze. As I said before, it's going to be really heavy on this silicone strap, flopping around, pulling this way and that. Lume is fantastic. Totally fantastic. Steel Dive does sometimes do great lume, it appears. Sometimes they do not. But that's nice. Apparently you get anti-reflective coating on the crystal. I mean, I'm expecting this to weigh a ton with that brass shroud and everything. I like that the hands match the case. Looks good. They did a good job here. Total score 78. In 25th place is the Notice Avalon 2. $700, 42 millimeters across, 300 meters water resistance. Good thickness. It's about a millimeter thinner than average for 300 meters water resistance. Sailcloth strap is cool. The blue actually looks really nice with the bronze. As the bronze fades, I still think it'll look good. You know, as the bronze turns more brown, I think it'll still be okay. I like the 6 o'clock date. The lume looks really good on this. I like the round case. Very thin looking lugs though. It looks a little bit off proportionally. I think they might have done better to make the lug width a little bit wider on this one. In 26th place is the Heimdallr Sub Bronze. $189, 40.5 millimeters across, 300 meters water resistance. So I guess this is what the Rolex Submariner would look like if we did a bronze one. I think my mock-up looks a lot better than this. The relief bezel is cool though. I do like that. The textured dial doesn't look right. I think it's the printing. There's like too much light on it right now and it looks cheap. So yeah, that's one reason why it's important to handle watches and see them in different lighting, because sometimes the product shot will look amazing, the colors will look really cool, and then you take it around in the real world and the colors are washed out and they look bad. I think this is an example of that. This green is not good. I think textured dials are kind of hard to do. If this was just a matte green, I think it would be a lot better than whatever this thing is. Let's look at the lume. Obviously no bezel lume with that relief bezel that they did. I mean, you could have a pip in here, but they chose not to. Still a decent watch though, C+ grade, score of 78. In 27th place is the Nethunes Aqua Bronze AB302. $409, 44 across, 300 meters water resistance. And this is the other Captain Willard homage. You can still get the brown one. I think the green one is out of stock at time of recording. That may be different now. These bronze watches aren't made in huge quantities, so they do tend to sell out rather quickly compared to steel versions. Lume is fantastic on this Nethunes. That is not a weak spot at all. Seems like a cool choice. It's weird they have an N here under the 300 meters. It's strange. Cool looking hands. Total score of 77. In 28th place is the Nemesis Yellow Monster. $479, 44 millimeters across, 500 meters water resistance. Pretty cool. Very unique. It's super thick. That is a problem. 19 thick is crazy. It's just totally crazy. I don't want a 19 millimeter thick watch. Let's look at the lume. Lume is actually really good on this thing. That's a surprise. Total score of 77. In 29th place, the Steel Dive 1968S. $189, 44 millimeters across, 300 meters water resistance. It kind of just looks like a mod kit or something. They just put some random stuff together. The ceramic bezel looks pretty cool. It works, but we're losing the bronze aesthetic here. It's kind of just bronze as an afterthought, in my opinion. The second hand is a problem. I don't like the yellow. I don't like how that looks. And this one is exceptionally thick, again, for like no reason. For 300 meters water resistance, the average is 13.7. So this is 3.5 millimeters thicker than average. Crazy thick. I don't understand why. Here's the loom, full loom bezel. So that's fantastic. The gold printing just totally disappears on the screen dial, at least in this lighting. So that's not ideal. Total score 77. In 30th place is the Kronos Bronze Willard. Good grief. $299, 44 millimeters across, as they all seem to be, and 200 meters water resistance. Man, there are so many bronze Willards. This one actually has a bronze insert, but it's got a sunburst, like really bright green dial, which I don't think works so well. It's really strange. There's a lot of colors of bronze. I've noticed there's more of this, like this is kind of a rose goldy bronze, and then there's other ones that are much more yellow looking. So I wonder why that is, why bronze differs. Either way, these colors are not working. This does not look good to me. I think the black one might actually be better on this one. If I was going for a Willard homage, I would do the Addie's Dive. That one looks like the highest quality one to me. Loom is okay, but there's no loom on the bezel. Total score 77. In 31st place is the San Martin Submersible SN0078Q. $390, 44 millimeters across, 300 meters water resistance. And it's not a total copy of the Panerai Submersible. I mean, you don't get the crown lock for one thing. That's probably the biggest difference. It's different in other ways as well. It has a fume pattern on the dial, which looks fantastic. San Martin does... They do pay attention to those kind of details better than other Chinese brands. This does look really nice here. I do like the little circle for the date as well. You know, personal preference, I think these numbers should be aligned vertically. They shouldn't be at an angle like this. I think the date should be vertical. I know that means you have to get a custom date wheel, but it looks like they already did because it's color matched. So yeah, that would have been nice. I like the submarine on it. That looks really cool. Hands are nice and big. I'll show you the loom. Fantastic loom. It's great. Might even be better than Panerai's loom. So that's good. So they're doing their own thing here with San Martin. It's a little bit different. I do like this relief bezel as well. That's looking really good. Yeah, it's a good choice. It's going to be one of the wild cards for the final runoff. Total score of 76. In 32nd place is the Fonderia Navale Stella. $513, 44 millimeters, 200 meters water resistance. And this is the one other fixed bezel dive watch that has a passing grade. Yeah, I'm pretty sure all the other fixed bezel watches just don't make the cut. This one squeaks in. Loom looks okay. It's okay loom, but you know, you don't get the bezel. Huge crown at 10 o'clock. 10 o'clock crown, I think, is a cool look with the bronze watch. I think that works well. It doesn't match though, and that is a problem. The crown should match the rest of the case. And that is a challenge with bronze watches because you don't always source the items at the same time, or they're not manufactured at the same time, so they might have different rates of patination. It's just a challenge. It looks like they have probably a different chemical composition even from each other, so that's not ideal. The steel screws are a little bit off as well. I would prefer that the screws were also bronze. Only 11.5 thick though. I would have thought it would be thicker. The average for 200 is 13.3, so almost 2 millimeters thinner than average. The color is too bright. I think this dial needs to be more muted. If it was a darker green, I think this would be a banger. Total score of 75. In 33rd place is the Baltic Aquascaf Bronze. $673, 39 millimeters across, 200 meters water resistance. I think I showed these slides to my daughter Well, I know I showed them to her. I think I showed her all the slides. This was her favorite, the Baltic. It really does just look classy. And it's probably the only one that has the Flecto. And is that the only reason? Does the Flecto just cover every other Sinn in the world? It's like, you see the Flecto, that's the one. I don't know. I don't think that's all there is to the Baltic. They really did a good job. Again, paying attention to the details. That's what so many brands miss, especially on bronze watches, is they just like, oh, let's just put out a bronze watch. It needs to be a bronze design. They got the numbers here. These, just look to Panerai. Just copy Panerai. The numbers that don't fully connect. That's a retro thing. That looks awesome. The Fotina looks good with the bronze. The bezel, the minimalist style here, it looks really good. The domed crystal, even the crown guards, they're kind of just minimal here. Kind of a minimal crown. It's got a style that really works well. I love the minute track here. Just so many things are looking classic and good about this. Just plain fence post hands actually really elevates it. It looks more dressy than a lot of these other bronze watches. Lume, it's not a real lume shot, it's some kind of render. Or it's just like, I can make these kind of lume shots with any watch. You just remove the background on where you know that lume is, and then you just really darken it up and put it on a black background. Or put a little green disc behind it, and boom, there's your lume shot. So yeah, it's not a real lume shot, but what they have lumed looks great. It's not going to be disappointing. The silicone actually looks okay on this one. Well, it's a Tropic rubber. And I've chosen it for a wild card. Total score of 74. In 34th place is the Aqua Trident Helmsman AQ 23007-05, $363, 43 millimeters across, 200 meters water resistance. They make them in other colors. This is the one to get. The one with this, I don't know what this is. Whatever mineral this is, looks so cool. It looks really good with the bronze. I really like what they did with the bezel here. They've got these kind of bronze sections for the numbers. It just looks really good. It's original. I like the leather strap here. Very cool looking watch. Lume looks nice. They did an accented minute hand. I love to see that. Omega does that. Omega likes to have a blue minute hand. They'll match the pip. They'll have the pip be blue as well. Loomed date. It's a reverse date, but it's also loomed. That is so cool. It probably won't last very long, but you'll blast it with the light. You'll turn out the lights, show your kids. They'll think it looks amazing. That's the point of the loom. Impress your kids. Go in the closet and look at it. That's what it's for. This one will not disappoint. It is thicker than average. Total score of 74. In 35th place is the Vostok Europe Almaz Bronze. $523, 47 millimeters across, 200 meters water resistance. They've patinaed the heck out of this thing. You've got some green on the bezel. It doesn't come that way, I don't think, but that's what they did. It looks okay. Why does it say space station? I don't know. Oh, that must be what Almaz is. I'm sorry for my ignorance. Lume is looking a little bit weak. Actually, really weak. Say no second lume. It doesn't say no second lume, but it should say no second lume. This should be a lower score. My apologies. Yeah, I don't think this is a great one. Yeah, it might even be like a score 71. I would pass on the Vostok Europe Almaz. In 36th place is the Enriva Bronze Pro Diver. $249, 42 millimeters across, 200 meters water resistance. And it is looking very cheap, very derivative. The sunburst, the problem with sunburst is in some lights they look really cheesy. That's my opinion on sunbursts. Sometimes your sunburst dial will look really awesome. So I prefer a matte dial on a bronze watch. I think it's more appropriate. You do get a leather strap, get a cool bronze bezel. Lume, I couldn't find a lume shot, so just kind of standard dive lume. Nothing to get excited about. Score 74. In 37th place is the Baltony B3016. $199, 44 millimeters across, 200 meters water resistance. I like this red or brown, reddish brown. It's looking really cool. Case is looking very coppery. I mentioned that before. Sometimes they look more like a wheat color, and then sometimes they look more like a copper penny color. There's a lot of different shades of bronze. I don't know quite why that is. And I don't know if you can trust the product photos necessarily. In all cases, it's best to watch a review and see it in somebody's hands. Some of these watches, I know you can't find a review, so sometimes it's worth taking a chance, I suppose. But let's look at that lume. Lume is good. I like the lume. Not totally matching. Yeah, they sourced the hands from a different place or something. I don't know. It looks okay, though. No date. I would like a date on this thing. Total score of 73. 38th place, the Thorn 50 fathoms, no radiation. $165, 40 millimeters across, 200 meters water resistance. Yeah, I don't think Blancpain does a bronze watch. So, you can get the 50 fathoms in bronze. Crazy long lugs. They go out forever. That's interesting. NATO strap. Lume looks passable. If you like this look, there you go. You can get the look for only 165 bucks. Good deal. Score 73. Okay, the first one I don't recommend. In 39th place is the Batiscafo Quadro Bronze. $402. 45, probably left to right. 200 meters water resistance. Yeah, this is going to be a big watch. I don't think they're measuring that diagonally. They could be, though. Again, watch review. Cool wire lugs on this. I like that. Interesting crown lock here. Steel Dive does this exact watch. Like maybe 50 bucks cheaper. Maybe it's $350 from Steel Dive. But it's such a cool watch. I love that you get the little fish here and it says 200 meters on the case. You know, that's one of the cool things about micro brands. They just do things a little differently. Sometimes you'll see that kind of thing. Instead of putting it on the dial, they put it on the case. That's really cool. Really like these numbers around the edge, you know, more pronounced numbers at 12369. The 7 with the slash through it. I just like that. That's really appropriate with bronze, in my opinion. Just kind of a little quirky. Lume, like I said, it's disappointing. There's no second lume. It's too bad. And they're missing the minute markings on the dial as well. This one could be passing, but it's not as it is. It's really funky. It's not going to be a very good dive watch. That's why it's not passing. That's why it's not recommended. It's not a very good dive watch. Total score of 72. In 40th place, 39th of the ones I can recommend, is the Malm Catalina. $460, 43 millimeters across, 100 meters water resistance. Oh man, how did that get through? 100 meters. It must be great in other ways. Swiss automatic. Yeah, it's barely scraping in. You have to change it. I recommend it only if you swap out that strap, because on this scoring system this time, I penalized silicone. I said silicone was a -1. So if you put it on leather, you're fine. But yeah, cool bezel. I said relief bezel. Yeah, those numbers are raised, so I guess this is a relief bezel. It's looking really cool. The lume is a sore spot. Lume is bad. You do get second lume, unlike the Batiscafo, but no bezel lume. That's unfortunate. They could have put a pip up here. The double zeros is very cool. You don't see that very often. Well, it's unusual to see the double zeros. I like the crown guards. The dial is just stunning. Really cool. And the A is just a chevron. That is sweet. I do like that. Bordered date window. Swiss movement. Like, it's pretty cool. It's definitely a cool watch. Barely recommended. Score of 72. In 41st place is the San Martin 6200 SN0004 BQ. $336. 38 millimeters across, 200 meters water resistance. San Martin is another one that takes design cues from Tudor or Rolex, but then they just change it a little bit, try to give it their own character. I think it works well. I do like how this looks. Look at the cohesiveness with the hands and the bezel and the dial printing. They're good about that, and that's one thing I really like about San Martin. This second hand is really cool as well. You have this nice counterbalance. You have a huge lollipop all the way out. That is so far out. You don't see that very much. I know I say you don't see that very much about so many things. It's true. That maybe I should just say it's a distinctive feature of this particular watch that the lollipop is really far on that stick. I like the fonts here. Let me zoom in. But see, they do the thing that so many brands do. These numbers should be curved. They should be a little bit curved. They're straight across, a straight line. Look at good watches, fancy watches, they're gonna be curved around the bezel, and it does look better. So it's too bad that San Martin missed that one. No date is also too bad. Yeah, overall, I don't recommend it as a dive watch. You know, with the bell curve, you're gonna have ones that are on the losing end. They're just not as good as the ones that were above. It's a very pretty watch though. Oh, and the lume is decent, not amazing. Total score of 72. In 42nd place is the Armida A8. Price of $349, 42 millimeters across, 300 meters water resistance. Barely recommended if you get it off this ISO frame and put it on some leather. You'll be good then. Or you can put it on canvas. Other stuff, doesn't match the bronze. That's the problem with this here. Greens don't totally match each other, but I think it works on this one. There's a little bit of a fume going on. Either way, it looks okay. These colors are complementary to each other, even though they don't match exactly. Lume is pretty good. Total score 72. 43rd place, the Aquasea Malachite. $649, 41 millimeters across, 200 meters water resistance. Malachite being this stone on the dial. So no two dials are going to look exactly the same. That's cool. I like the arrow minute hand here. I love seeing those. I have to show you this lume. The flame is loomed. That is so cool. The applied flame logo. That is very cool. I do like to see that. Nice big pip as well. You've got a bronze bezel. It looks like it's got a ratchet style knurling on the outside, like a one-way knurling. Those are cool. I do like those. Hexagonal crown, or maybe octagonal crown. Either way, it's not your normal crown over here. It's very cool. The strap is unique as well with the green contrast stitching. That's distinctive. But all in all, don't recommend it. Score 72. 44th place, the Hrodland Magnus Homage. $530, 45 millimeters across, 200 meters water resistance. It says Dreamstar. On the website, they call it the Hrodland Magnus Homage. It's homaging the Magnus. I've never heard of the Magnus. I couldn't find a lume shot. This is the lume from the description. Look at these hands. The tiniest little strip of lume. That's not going to last. And then the lightning bolt second hand has no lume. It's unreasonably thick as well for this water resistance. Score of 72. Not recommended. 45th place is the Bulova Marine Star Bronze. 98B421. $600, 43 somewhere, 200 meters water resistance. It's bad. It's bad to mix brown and black. And this is, you can see it in front of your eyes why you don't mix brown with black. Just don't do it. It looks bad. It's a quartz. It's a super precision whatever quartz. Maybe it should have gotten an extra point for that. I do technically, I guess, recommend it if you swap it off the silicone. I just think it's ugly as all get out. Lume is okay, but there's none on the bezel. If you're going for a bronze watch, I don't think you're going for Bulova Marine Star. I don't know what they're doing over at Bulova, but so many of their watches are just weird, ugly looking. Really ugly. Like they're really just trying to make it ugly to be provocative or something. I don't get it. And this 20 almost looks angled out. Like they really tried to avoid angling the numbers. A lot bit weird. It looks a lot bit weird. 46th place is the Vostok 1969 Amphibia Bronze. $679, 41 millimeters, probably left to right, 200 meters water resistance. It's too bad I can't recommend it. It looks so cool. I'm sure it'd be sweet to have one of these, but not so sweet when you're paying $675 for a Vostok. That's way too much money for this. Way too much money. Lume looks really good though. That's some decent lume. They do the double lines on the hour hand. That is cool. Total score 71. 47th place is the San Martin Luminor BN008Q2. $359, 44 millimeters, 150 meters water resistance. You got your small seconds. You've got your sandwich dial. You don't have minute hashes. It's looking just like that Panerai Luminor. You got this crown lock. Actually, I don't think Panerai makes a bronze Luminor. Yeah, they just make the bronze the other one. The other one with the wire lugs, they do that one, that fixed bezel model in bronze, but they don't do the Luminor in bronze. Very cool to see that. I like it a lot. But it's not passing. It's very close to being able to be recommended. Lume actually looks really darn cool. The small seconds here looks fantastic. Flotilla Xmas. It might be related to some event in history. Probably in World War II, and the Italians were on the other side, so I don't know about that. Yeah, very thick. Huge bubble crystal on here. I mean, it's going to be fun. It's definitely going to be fun. The olive green is looking a little bit comic-y to me. It's a little too bright. This needs to be more dull, in my opinion. Yeah, and the font needs to be a little smaller, a little more reserved. It's looking cartoony. The whole thing is too cartoony. Total score 71. 48th place is the Sultan Savage Bronze. $629, 39 millimeters across, 200 meters water resistance. Do you want to pay $630 for Seiko NH35? I actually don't know. It might be a Miyota or something. It's getting up there in price to not have a Swiss movement. That's for sure. Stone dial is looking really cool. The brown one is pretty cool too. Lume actually looks pretty decent on this one. Something a little bit funny about these. The first impression is really great, but when I look closer, I see weird things about it. I can't necessarily articulate it. I guess the color of the Fotina is a little bit odd. And the stone as well. You could get some weird stones. I think in other light, it looks weird. It looks washed out. Like this picture is really dark. It makes it seem really dark. When you put it in bright light, it doesn't have that same character anymore. Total score of 71. 49th place is the Zan Brown Bear. $385, 43.5 millimeters, 100 meters water resistance. Yeah, 100 really makes it not quite a dive watch, unfortunately. Lume is looking cool. Really cool, actually. I'm impressed with the lume. You even get lume on the crown. I had never heard of Zan before. This wasn't in the original series. There's something weird with the dial here. There's a cutout and a not totally matching brown underneath. That's weird, guys. There's something weird going on with the dial here. The circular date cutout is cool. I like that. It's okay, but not recommended. So I guess it's not okay. Don't get this one. I mean, get whatever watch you like. I score them to kind of figure out what's the best, you know. It's not in the top 10. Nobody would probably try to argue that Zan is the top 10. All the watches that exist in our market are attractive to somebody. And it is cool looking. Good lume, all that sort of stuff. The stenciled numerals look cool too. Score 71. In 50th place is the Boldr Sea Turtle Bronze. $159, 40 millimeters across, 100 meters water resistance. Cool honeycomb pattern on the dial. I like that. I like the handset. I like the green. It's only 100 meters. That's really its downfall. You know, if it was 200 meters and everything else the same, I would recommend it. Lume is looking really cool. That'll be fun for sure. While it lasts, which won't be very long, but it's going to be fun. Very weird blue lume on these indices. Total score of 70. In 51st place is the Aragon Parma 2 Bronze. $750. 45 millimeters across, 200 meters water resistance. It looks really cool. The mother of pearl dial looks awesome. The chapter ring actually looks really cool too. Lume is decent, but no bezel lume. I do like that counterbalance. It's kind of cool on Aragon watches. Yeah, just not really making the cut. It's super thick, 17 thick. Oh yeah, where's my thickness chart? Yeah, the average for 200 meters is 3.7 millimeters thick. So 17 is over 3 millimeters thicker than average. It's just super thick. I don't care for the PVD steel mesh bracelet with this or the black crown. It just doesn't look right. Total score is 70. In 52nd place is the Marinez Tale. $399. 45 millimeters across, 300 meters water resistance. Minimalist bezel. I don't necessarily have a problem with that, but you know, if you put all this stuff in the scoring system, it is not a recommend. Lume looks decent. It's cool to have. Oh, I shouldn't say lume is decent when it's missing second lume. So lume is subpar with no second lume. Total score 69. In 53rd place, the Stalingrad Defender. $225, 45 millimeters, 200 meters water resistance. I like the cushion case. I like the thick wire lugs here. The blue actually looks pretty cool. Purple is nice on this one, actually, as well. Lume looks okay. Is this a dive bezel? None of these is indicated. I think you can turn it, but how do you know which one? All 6 of these little screws are identical. So yeah, I'm confused by this one. Either way, it's not recommended. Total score 68. 54th place is the Bob Wilson Legion Roman numeral 6. $249, 44 millimeters, 100 meters water resistance. You have drilled lugs. Crown does not match the case. This bezel does supposedly turn. And this like W or whatever, you can put it where you want. It's supposed to be a W. It's loomed. The same W is on the second hand or something? What is that? Oh no, on the dial, the W there is loomed. That is interesting. I don't know. It is a quartz watch though. Not recommended. In 55th place is the Invicta Pro Diver 25642 bronze. $130, 45 millimeters across, 100 meters water resistance. So yeah, a little bit more than the regular Pro Diver, which makes sense. I do like the look of it. It's not just a Rolex homage. I like that about it. It is crazy thick though. The average for 100 meters water resistance is 13.4. So yeah, this is getting pretty thick. 2.5 millimeters thicker than average. Lume is okay. Normally Invicta Lume is not good. This looks a little bit better than the regular Invicta Lume. Nothing to write home about. The 100 meters is really what makes it not a suitable dive watch here. Score of 67. 56th place is the Steel Flyer SF760S Radio Mirror. $179, 42 millimeters across, 200 meters water resistance. This is a viable radio mirror homage, I suppose. I do wish they had some dial text at all. It's looking weird with the sterile. The colors are not matching, you know, the sandwich dial thing with the hands. This one's more orange than the hands. There it is in the dark. The hands look a little bit paler than the indices, so that's unfortunate. You can see that screw down crown in the Lume shot. I do like that sort of a diamond crown, I don't know, a goblet crown, something like that. It looks really cool, but not passing the class. It's one of the few fixed bezel options. Oh, well, I see another one on the same page. Total score 66. In 57th place is the Aragon Hercules MD Bronze. MD, I don't know what that means. $149, 50 millimeters across, 200 meters water resistance. The case looks really cool. Yeah, what is wrong with this one? Oh, it's 50 millimeters. Maybe that's why. I set my, so at 47, there's still no penalty. 48, 49, 50. Yeah, 3 points off for the size of the case being humongous. It's going to be very heavy. Full lume dial though, that is looking good. This is cool. It's really below though. Oh yeah, there's no lume on the bezel. That's hurting it. It has low contrast with the white. Yeah, I mean, there's a reason it has a low score. So there's a few things wrong with it. It's very thick as well. Total score of 64. In 58th place is the Squale Bronzo. $223, 42 millimeters, 100 meters water resistance. Yeah, the 100's not great, and it's push-pull crowns you got going on here. So that's not good. And, you know, yeah, I just tried to find on their product listing screw down crown. It doesn't say screw down crown, so you can't assume. A lot of times they don't say that because it's not screw down. I think it just kind of looks like a dive watch. It's not a good dive watch. No lume on the second, for example. Oh, let's look at the lume. There's that lume. It's looking pretty weak. Score 63. In 59th place is the Regia Armare Regatta. $399, 44 millimeters across, 100 meters water resistance. Another fixed bezel dive watch. This one you get lume chapter. Oh, I said no second lume. It doesn't have a second hand at all. So yeah, you do get lume chapter though. You know what minute it is right to the minute. It's cool. Regia or Regia, I don't know which one. It's very cool. The other colors look bad though. Even the green I think didn't look quite right. But yellow especially. Yellow with bronze is a bad combo. There's the lume. Lume is on point for this thing. That looks good. Except for the fact there's no second hand. That's bad. They should have a small seconds or something. Total score of 59. In 60th place, the last one, is the Hatis Okeanos bronze. $500, 42 millimeters across, 50 meters water resistance. Already heavily patinaed in this particular shot. It doesn't look right. It looks weird. It does apparently have a screw down crown, but only 50 meters water resistance. Lume is okay, I guess. Where's the 4? Why don't we get 4? What is going on there? Why is 4 missing? That's weird. Very weird. Total score 57. All right, that was all the bronze dive watches under $775 that I included in the video. You know, like I mentioned, they're more from Steel Dive. Definitely check that out. I don't think I really excluded anything from other brands. Well, Zelos. I mentioned Zelos. I only included this Hammerhead. I didn't include other Zelos models because you can't buy them. I mean, you can't buy the Hammerhead right now either. It will come out again in the future, and I think you can get them secondhand. Zelos is part of the conversation. It's just, with some of these micro brands, you just really have to be on their mailing list. You have to pay attention. For example, today Zelos released a new version of the Mako, a purple, and I love the Zelos Swordfish purple. I was tempted to get the Mako, but it's not quite right. I'm still holding out for the purple. Anyway, Zelos makes really cool watches. They do a great job with their bronze watches. But yeah, that is a downside. But yeah, we saw a lot of cool stuff. The Evox was really sweet. Very thin, obscenely thin. It's a scandal how thin this thing is. Marinus Samui. Yeah, lots of homages in here. 100 Captain Willard homages. Doxa 300 homage. Really cool lume on a lot of these watches. So yeah, if you only have a few $100, you can get a cool bronze watch. But yeah, let's go on to the next price category, over $775. All right, bronze dive watches over $775. We've got the Panerai Bronzo, Omega, tons of cool stuff. Let's dive right in with number 5. In 5th place is that Panerai Submersible PAM 507, $20,000, 47 millimeters across, 300 meters water resistance. It's not in Panerai's current catalog, but you can find them on Chrono 24. You can still buy these. You get a power reserve. That is the distinguishing feature of this one. I will show later the version of this without the power reserve as well. That's also included in the video. The most distinctive feature of this is this locking lever right here. They have a patented lever here that, you know, it seals down that crown. The really cool thing about this lever is when it is unattached, it has this huge arm sticking way out. There's no way that you can mistake that it's not sealed down. So that's in a lot of ways better than a screw down crown. You really have a lot of assurance before you jump into the water that your crown is fully seated. So I really like that. They captured the bronze aesthetic perfectly with this design. They really, they captured lightning in a bottle with this one, in my opinion. It just matches the bronze character so perfectly. It's comforting, all these sorts of things. Yeah, in the end with the Runoff Rounds, I rate the watch's character as a bronze watch. And what I do is I have 15 descriptors. The Panerai Submersible Bronzo has all of these. Old-timey, mysterious, smooth, charming, funky, dark. All these descriptors of the bronze metal this design has. So yeah, I love this design. In terms of like its specs, as I mentioned at the beginning, I did have to tweak the scoring system a little bit to reward some of these aesthetic choices that this particular watch has. For example, no minute hashes. It's still penalized, it's still a -5, but it's not a -9 anymore like it was in the original series. Stuff like that. Lume, let's look at the lume. You're missing lume at the 3 and the 9. That is unfortunate. But they did lume the power reserve indicator. So if you're actually diving and you're so deep that it's dark and you can't even see your dial very well, you can see that running seconds perfectly, and you can also check your power reserve while you're down there. Power reserve is a fantastic complication for a dive watch. It just really lets you know if you're topped up or not before you dive in. But are you actually going to take this thing diving because you've got the leather and, you know, the bronze and everything? Maybe you will, maybe you won't. But yeah, this is a sweet watch. It's basically the bronze diver right here. Panerai submersible PAM 507. In fourth place is the Sinn T50 Gold Bronze B SI-0035. $5,860, 41 millimeters across, 500 meters water resistance. Only 12.3 thick, so only just slightly thicker than the Submariner, which is famously thin. But this is a 500 meter water resistance watch. So, I mean, this thing is packed with features. It has a capsule inside it, a gas capsule. The purpose of this is like every watch is going to have some amount of moisture in it just from the air. You can't totally dehumidify the air when you assemble the watch. So there's always a little bit of moisture. When there's extreme fluctuations in temperature, pretty much any watch will fog up on the inside, but not this one because they have that gas capsule inside of it. It's a moisture absorbing capsule. This is probably not the right term for it, but it absorbs that moisture for you. And you can change those out. But yeah, this has a gold bronze case. 125, it's 1/8 gold, and the rest is bronze. It looks really nice with this blue. I really like that. The lume, this lume shot is unimpressive. I don't know if it's a photo. I don't think it is. I think it's a render thing. I've heard that Sinn lume is not necessarily the best in the planet. I do like that they have different colors here. They have the blue on the bezel, and it's a huge pip. And then this nice big blue minute hand. Those are the two things you want the most with the dive watch, so they put the most lume on those things. Tiny little sliver on the second, that's gonna fade really quickly. You get a color matching date here. That looks really good. Swiss movement. Yeah, the coolest technical thing this has is the safety bezel. And the way that works is normally with the bezel, you just turn away. This one, if you try to turn it, normally it's not gonna turn. You have to push it in and then push it down. Like if you're opening a child safety cap on pills or whatever. So that's different. Really sweet option. Total score of 88. In third place is the Omega Seamaster 300 Bronze Gold. $13,900 on the silicone strap. 42 millimeters across, 300 meters water resistance. This thing is a brand new release. It's not bronze. It's mostly bronze. It's 37.5% gold. So 9 karat gold. It's still in the bronze family. It is mostly bronze. You can also get this on a bronze gold mesh bracelet, but that increases the cost significantly. I think it's like $33,000 or something. So the Omega Seamaster has this distinctive helium escape valve here at 10 o'clock. Make sure it's all the way screwed down. The helium escape valves are so silly. It's not silly if you need it, but nobody statistically needs it. Yeah, you have to be going into some kind of decompression chamber to have to do that. Which a small minority of professional divers ever have to even do that. Let's look at the lume. Lume is pretty cool. It's green on the pip and green on the minute hand, and the rest is blue. That is cool. I like that. Seamaster is very distinctive lume pattern here. No date, unfortunately. You do get a master chronometer. You get anti-reflective coating. All little dots all the way around the bezel. I love how Omega does this. You still get the Arabic numerals, but they have room for every single dot. They don't skip any of the dots all the way around. I love that. A lot of times they have to skip dots for those numbers, but Omega did it in a classy way. I like that a lot. Case is really cool. Yeah, it's a classic watch. Cool option, score of 87. In second place is the Christopher Ward C60 Pro 300 Bronze. $1,300, 42 millimeters across, 300 meters water resistance. Dial is looking cool. The brown actually works well with the bronze. It's not the best color combo in my opinion. I would love to see a green, for example, but brown is nice. The distressed leather strap looks really good with this. I like the dagger hour hand here and the trident counterbalance to the second hand. That's very cool. Chronometer right across here. Can't miss that. It's nice and thin. 11.5 thin. That is way thinner than average. The average thickness for a 300 meter dive watch is 13.7. So this is more than 2 millimeters thinner than average. Great job, Christopher Ward. Here's that lume. They did it at a weird angle. I don't know why. Just take it straight on, please. But no, they did this thing. Lume looks okay. It's probably going to fade pretty quickly, honestly, especially on the bezel. Very cool choice. I mean, it's the number 2. It's one of the small handful that got a score of 90 plus. So good job, Christopher Ward. Score of 90. First place The number one bronze dive watch you can buy over $775 score-wise is the H2O Tiburon. Price of $972, 43 millimeters across, 500 meters water resistance. It has a really cool patented technology here where this crown is fully enveloped by this articulating piece down here, the 6 o'clock crown. So if the crown is not fully screwed down, you're not going to be able to close this little articulating piece, and when you try to put the watch on, it's going to feel weird. So that is a really cool safety feature for the dive watch. I really like this bezel insert. You can get different dial pattern. H2O really does a ton of customization. I like the green dial, I like the blue dial. This brown dial actually is not my favorite. Yeah, and you can get different bezel inserts. Here is the lume for this dial, and the bezel insert that has slashes up to the 15. That's what that lume shot looks like. It's kind of an obscure watch, so I could not find a lume shot for this exact configuration you see on the screen. But it is fully loomed. I've seen on their other models, this bezel insert is fully loomed all the way around. So it's going to be awesome lume. Well, yeah, you can see the lume when it only goes to 15. You know, this one will go all the way around. 500 meters depth rating, but only 11.4 thick. So I was praising the Christopher Ward for how thin it was. This one even goes deeper, and it's thinner than the Christopher Ward. So H2O's doing some wizardry over there with their watches. All right, those were the top 5. Now I'll go through the rest of them. And reminder, in this price category, over $775, 42% of them are good grades. We're going to see a lot of good grade watches in this segment. In 6th place is the Rolex Submariner Date Bronze, 136608. $11,800, 41 millimeters across, 300 meters water resistance. And yeah, this is a joke. Is it a funny joke or a stupid joke? This thing doesn't exist. It's not real. In 6th place, actual 6th place, is the H2O Orca Bronze. $938, 44 millimeters across, 2,000 meters water resistance. They have a few different options for this, including a totally different case. The case kind of actually looks like the Glycine Combat Sub that's right next to this one, the other H2O Orca case. I think this one's a little more interesting, that's why I put it on the screen, but it is a little funky looking. The bronze on this one is looking very coppery. I think the blue dial looks the best. The bronze dial is interesting, but you have poor contrast. You can customize these hands. I should have done an orange accent minute hand on this. That would look so much better. That's how I should have prepped this photo here. I'll put other ones, scrolling by and everything. But yeah, you get the sandwich dial. Fully loomed chapter ring. Let's look at the lume. Okay, this is a different dial. I don't even think there's a second hand on this one. But it shows you what the bezel would look like, what the hands would look like. It's tough with these ones because they refresh them pretty often, I think, and it's kind of an obscure watch company. But yeah, here's that cool sandwich dial. Ridiculously deep depth rating. And the average thickness for a 2,000 meter dive watch is 18.5. So this one is thinner than average. It's a millimeter thinner than average for 2,000 meters water resistance. It's a very deep depth rating. H2O actually makes the deepest depth rating dive watch that there is. So they know what they're doing here. And of course you can test those in, there's equipment you can pressure test them. 2,000 meters is ridiculous. I don't think I've mentioned thus far in this video, but the deepest open circuit scuba dive was 300 something meters. That's as deep as you can go without being crushed. Even if you go in an atmospheric diving suit that looks like you're going to the outer space, basically, still there, the limit is like 700 meters, something like that. Nobody's gone to 2,000 before. It's ridiculous. But you could with this watch, in theory. Everything's totally black down there. You can't see a thing. It's freezing cold. It's all kind of silly. But very cool watch. Total score of 85. In 7th place, the Glycine Combat Sub GL0424. $1,223, 42 millimeters across, 200 meters water resistance. The big thing to know about the Glycine Sub is that it is so darn thin, 10.45 millimeters thick. It's just crazy how thin this thing is. It's almost 3 millimeters thinner than average. That is the reason to get the Glycine Combat Sub. They have a lot of different versions of this. This one on the screen is really nice. You get your military time. You also get minute Arabics. There's a little bump here at the top, so you can feel with your hands whether it's aligned to the top or if it's aligned somewhere else. That is a distinctive feature of this Glycine that I really like. Cool case shape, nice crown guards. Everything's looking a little bit retro. I like the logo of Glycine. I mean, I'm a Glycine fanboy. I like what they do. It's a cool option. It is a lot of money though. You can probably find them cheaper on the gray market. Lume is not impressive. I do like how much lume they have on the second hand. That is above average, but it's just nothing to write home about. Really small indexes and stuff. There you go. There's Glycine Combat Sub. Total score of 85. In 8th place is the Aquatico Supercharger. $799. 43 left to right. 1,000 meters water resistance. The color's not doing it for me. Maybe the black one is better. This green, I mean, I basically, if they make a green, I'm trying to present the green because I think green is the ideal color for bronze. This one, though, I would not go with this green. I mentioned before, the sunburst can look cheesy in some lights. I think this sunburst is no good. And the red and the orange, it's too many colors. We have too many colors because the bronze is a color on top of it. So that's one reason why you can't have as much color with the bronze watch, because the case itself is a color. Lume is fantastic. You have flat tritium tubes for these indices. You have tritium on the hands. You also have some conventional lume on the hands and then conventional lume on the bezel. There's just lume everywhere. That is one of the reasons to get this, probably. I like the circular date cutout. That is cool. I think this scores better than Bell & Ross. Yeah, well, it does. It's in 8th place. We haven't seen the Bell & Ross yet. Yeah, the Bell & Ross is actually in 16th place. I think this looks a little better than the Bell & Ross. Crazily enough, the watch is homaging. It looks better than that. Cool option, score of 85. In 9th place is the Squale 1521. A bunch of other stuff to indicate it's the bronze version. $1,780. 42 millimeters across, 500 meters water resistance. 2 o'clock date is really cool. I love the 1521. It is such a cool design. The Squale 1521 is probably the only dive watch I could see myself saving up for and buying that's over $1,000. I really do think, because mostly I like to get watches that are like under $500. I could see myself saving up for the actual 1521. The Kosk version. This one is not the Kosk version. It's not a chronometer. It does have a Swiss movement, but it's not a chronometer. The problem with the bronze one is it just doesn't match. These colors don't match the bronze. The character doesn't really work for bronze either. I just don't think Squale should have done a bronze 1521. Lume is really cool though. They have a border to this 2 o'clock date. That is very cool. The more I look at it, the more I do like it. I just think, I don't like when you just take a steel watch and make it bronze, and that's what they did with Squale. I mean, they made a few differences. They put the 2 o'clock date. They made it a little more quirky. It sort of works. It sort of works. Not for me. Total score of 84. In 10th place, the Bremont Argonaut. $3,995. 42 millimeters across. 300 meters water resistance. And it's pretty boring. You have an internal rotating bezel. We haven't seen a billion of those. I think there have been a few, right? This is one of them. The crown's screw down. So, downside of this is, if you're actually going on a dive, you're going to have to set that before you jump out of the boat. And if you're just bobbing around for a while, that kind of messes up your timing a little bit. But it's going to be hard to actually change that time in the water without water getting into it when you're bobbing around on the surface. So that is one downside to internal rotating bezels. You can't set that right for when you go down. Let's look at the lume. Lume looks decent on this. Bezel lume looks very dim. Let's look. Yeah, they're very thin numbers. So that's going to fade quickly. These tiny little dots and the pip, those are going to fade pretty quickly is what it looks like. It is a chronometer. It's an okay thickness. I just think it's kind of boring. That's the main issue with the Bremont. Total score of 84. In 11th place is the Luminox Sport Timer XS 0923-SET, $2,195, 42 millimeters across, 200 meters water resistance. Like that Glycine, you have a little bump at the pip, so you're going to be able to feel that. This is a tritium watch. You get tritium on all the hands, oh, except the second hand, and you get tritium on the bezel. That's cool. A lot of times you don't get a tritium tube on the bezel because it is kind of big. You have to do a little bit more engineering to get that tritium tube up there on the bezel. But they did it. They put in that effort with this one. That's really cool. $2,000 though. That is crazy. That seems like way too much to me for Luminox. Luminox is like, should be below 1,000. And this one's over 2,000. I do like the day date. I like the fume pattern. I like the dark numerals here. It's a really cool looking watch. I just think it's way too much money. Even the lugs here, how they flare out, that looks really cool. Strap looks really nice. Just too much money on this one. That's the only issue I see. But I chose it for a wild card, so we'll see how it does at the end in the runoff. Total score of 84. In 12th place is the Christopher Ward C65 Aquitaine, $1,410, 41 millimeters across, 200 meters water resistance. It's kind of a plain looking watch. Again, I have concerns with the sunburst. It looks okay though, and I do like how they match the color of the bronze with this bezel. I think that's gonna look good. Yeah, I don't really have complaints with this one. It's just kind of boring. I do like the trapezoidal date cutout here at 6 o'clock. Got your symmetry that looks nice there. It's a chronometer. Lume looks pretty good on this. You've got all the hash marks loomed on this bezel. You do get a little lume underneath that date window as well. That's always nice to see. Total score of 84. In 13th place is the Marie Lacroix Acon Venturer Bronze, $2,213, 43 millimeters across, 200 meters water resistance. I think this actually works. The steel one looks cool. The bronze one also looks cool. You know, unlike that Squale where the steel one looked cool, the bronze one didn't look cool. This one, the bronze one, looks cool. I like it. It works. The design works for both steel and bronze. Lume is great on this. You get lume. You get all the little marks on the countdown here. Nice big chunk of lume on that second hand. Border date. Yeah, I think, you know, like the Luminox, here's another Swiss watch. This one, though, has more brand strength to me than the Luminox. Maybe it's just a different type of brand, because Luminox does have high brand strength. I just think, in fact, technically, I think Luminox probably does beat it for brand strength. But it's brand strength as like a cheaper positioned watch. Like Casio has super high brand strength, but do they have a high brand strength for a $2,000 watch? No, they do not, because their whole price segment is lower. And yeah, I do like this one a lot. And apparently you can get it on a leather strap. I think this is a silicone in the picture, but you can get one of these colors on a leather. Hopefully I figured that out when I'm putting pictures up. I have a fondness for this one I can't totally explain. Total score of 83. In 14th place is the Delma Cayman Bronze 500 meter, $1,775, 42 millimeters across, and 500 meters water resistance. That bezel is fully loomed. That looks awesome. The hand loom does look a little bit weak sauce though. These are thin hands. In fact, it probably should have gotten the thin hands penalty. There's not many that have hands this thin. That is atypical of a dive watch. They should have thicker hands in my opinion. I like seeing the military time there. That is cool. The color is not great though. I know you can mix red and green. They could have done orange. That might have been better. Or like gray or something. That might have been better. This rust color doesn't look quite right to me. Decent option, score of 83. In 15th place is the Panerai Submersible Bronzo, kind of the original one without the power reserve, $17,700. This one on the screen is 42 millimeters. I think this is the 1074, and it's 300 meters water resistance. The brown one and the green one are both larger. This is the one that's available in their catalog right now. You can get this new from Panerai, this particular option, this 42 millimeter, the navy one. Navy looks cool. I like green better. I think green is the way to go on the Bronzo, but here you go. You'll see I didn't include it as a wild card. That's because it's so similar to that other one. I've learned from the past, you don't want watches that are exactly the same to be in the runoff, because then they kind of end up in the same spot at the end. It's not as interesting. So Panerai's one submission will be the power reserve one. That's going to be in the final runoff, not this one. This is an absolutely cool watch though. especially if you don't want the 47 millimeter Bronzo. If you want a smaller one, here you go. Panerai makes a smaller one. It looks really cool. Let's look at the lume. There's that lume. Small seconds is totally illuminated. You're still missing 3 and 9 though. That's something Panerai does here. Cool locking lever as we talked about earlier. Good option. Great option. Score of 82. In 16th place is the Bell & Ross BR 0392, but this is the bronze one. They have a ton that are called the 0392. $4,900, 42 millimeters, 300 meters water resistance. And yes, I actually think that the Aquatico looks better than this one. This one, the thinner bezel is a little bit nicer than the Aquatico. The color just looks bad though. And I think it's because the black bezel. If they had a bronze bezel with black printing on it, that would look so cool. That would look so much better for this Bell & Ross. The black is clashing. I don't like that. They should have bronze indices on here and a bronze bezel. That would look much better. And it should have a leather strap, not this silicone thing. But it's a viable bronze watch. If you like the look, definitely go for it. Lume looks a little bit weak sauce. They didn't turn the lights off, so it's hard to get a good picture. The pip looks weak though. I do like the screws. I like the square case. Looks very cool. I love the ampersand in their logo. That's very cool. Colors are not doing it for me though. Score of 82. In 17th place is the H2O Colomar 2 Bronze. $1,030. 42.5 millimeters across. 3,000 meters water resistance. It's a very robust watch. It has this bonus called Valve Unnecessary, which means they just did enough gaskets or whatever you have to do, so you don't even need a helium escape valve. And that's actually the ideal, because the valve is a potential point of failure. If you design the watch so that it doesn't even need a helium escape valve, that's even better. So yeah, and 3,000 meters, crazy. The average thickness for a 3,000 meter dive watch is 17.5. And it arguably should be bigger because there is one watch in that average that really, really drives it down. And these averages are based on the full 600 plus watches that I included in that original series. But yeah, either way, this is at least 2 millimeters thinner than average for this depth rating. It's a thinner than average watch that goes to 3,000. As I mentioned with H2O before, you can get different kind of dials. Apparently no date though on this. Lume looks so cool. It's really excellent lume that they have here. But you'll see no bezel lume. That's unfortunate. You know what? There might actually be bezel lume. There might actually be a lume pip on some of these because you can change the bezels. So look into that. If you're thinking about one of these H2Os, and you should think about it at the very least, it's a good value proposition. But check out the customizations. Ask questions if something's unclear on the website. They will answer you, I'm sure. I really like their bezel. It looks so cool. Looks some kind of pastry. Really like it. Total score of 82. In 18th place is the ZRC Securicode Diver 300. $3,670, 39 millimeters, probably left to right, 300 meters water resistance. Oversized crown looks cartoonishly large. The lug width is cartoonishly narrow. There's some issues with the proportions here. Thick paddle hands, totally thick. I couldn't find a lume shot. The only lume you get on the dial is these tiny little circles. So this is probably what it would look like. I just kind of mocked up what I thought the lume pattern looks like here. So kind of weird. Swiss made. You get some minute Arabics, date. It seems fine. They advertise it as being more shock resistant than just your standard ink block thing. So I got a bonus for that. Total score of 82. In 19th place is the Archimede Sport Tauscher. $1,291, 42 millimeters across, 300 meters water resistance. 4 o'clock crown, looks pretty cool. You get crown guards. Kind of makes the whole case look a little bit funny. These hands are bad. I don't like the gold with the red, the candy apple red. It doesn't match the bronze character. The colors are a problem on this one. That needs to be fixed. It just needs to be more muted. There's no lume on the second hand, which is odd. It's probably a quality watch. I just think style-wise, not for me. Here's that lume. As you can see, no second lume. Nice big pip though. I do like that. Total score of 82. In 20th place is the Tudor Black Bay 58 Bronze. $4,875, 39 millimeters across, 200 meters water resistance. It's a wild card, so it'll be in the final runoff for sure. Tudor does a good thing here. Brown is not my favorite. I actually like the gray one. Brown, I think brown is the only one you can get the bracelet extension on though. And that gets it one more point. So that's why I showed you the brown one. It has that T-fit clasp, so that's nice. Unfortunately, Tudor hates the date, so there's no date on this thing. Lume looks a little bit weak, I'll be honest, but it's really hard to compare these lume shots because you don't know how they're taken. They're not necessarily using a UV light and taking the picture right after they use the UV light and making sure that they're in the same conditions with the light, no ambient light in the room sort of thing. So it is hard to compare shots. I do the best I can. I think we have to take a look because some of these you can tell, you're like, wow, those hands are really pale in comparison to the indices. So you know that there's an issue with the lume. So it is important to look at those lume shots. Great thickness on this, under 12 millimeters thick. So that's great. Score of 81. In 21st place is the Nevada Grenchen Depth Master Bronze. Price of $1,750, 39 millimeters across, 1,000 meters water resistance. You've got Pac-Man numerals, those are really cool. I actually like the hands on this. I did have this as a wild card on my first draft of the final showdown, and it just didn't do very well. It does capture the character. The color is a big issue though. This gold here is clashing with the bronze. It's too yellow. So they didn't get that right. The bezel color is off here. In my opinion, you may like it. I think it's off with the bronze. It'd be fine with steel, totally fine with steel, but not with bronze. Lume is pretty good. You get some numbers that are lumed. That's always nice to see. I think it's decent. Very deep depth rating, and it's only 13 millimeters thick. The average thickness for 1,000 meter depth rating is 15.7. It's almost 3 millimeters thinner than average, so that's good. No date on it though. Lugs look a little bit long as well. They don't need to be that long. Look at all this daylight here. Total score of 81. In 22nd place is the Shinola Bronze Monster. $1,850. 43 millimeters, 300 meters water resistance. The hands don't match the bronze case. That's no good. You guys need to match that. I think it's way overpriced, which you could say about every Shinola watch. The bezel looks so good though. I really like the bezel. Lume is actually really nice on this too. It's definitely a good watch. I think they're just charging too much. And the hands would bother me. You shouldn't have gunmetal mixed with the bronze. They should have the same tone of metal. It's also really thick. 15.2 is actually 1.5 millimeters thicker than average for 300 meters water resistance. And it's got a Swiss movement, so I don't know why it's so thick. That's very weird. Total score of 80. 23rd place is the Alsta Nautoscaf. $785, 40 millimeters, 300 meters water resistance. Skin diver case shape. That's okay. Lume is all right. The pip is really tiny though. It could be a bigger pip. Yeah, and it's crazy thick. I was complaining about the last one's thickness. This one's another millimeter thicker. So this is 2.5 millimeters thicker than average for the 300 meter water resistance rating. Total score of 80. In 24th place is the Longio Zuke, 500 meters. $2,817, 45 millimeters across, 500 meters water resistance. It's got a button strap. There aren't a ton of those. Lume is fantastic on this thing. That is a surprise. Oh, except no second lume. My goodness. And yeah, it gets the penalty. That's so strange. They put lume on everything else it's possible to put lume on, but no lume on the second hand. In fact, those hands are a weak spot. The case is really cool, but the hands and even the dial printing is substandard. It's looking cheap. It looks a little bit off. Yeah, it could be a cool watch. Why is it almost $3,000 for Longio? Who's buying that? I don't know who's going to buy this watch. Total score of 80. In 25th place is the Tsao Torsk Bronze. $899, 43 millimeters, 300 meters water resistance. They also have renders for their product shots, so I used an actual picture of their watch. They don't look as good as the renders. It's looking a little funky. The problem with these dials is it's really tough to match the color with the bezel. When you have really interesting dials, that's a challenge. And a lot of watches fail to have a cohesive color scheme going on. Lume is fantastic. Sao does a great job with the lume. I do like that 2 o'clock crown. That's really cool. It's cool you get your standard Arabic numerals around here. Very tiny though. It's a cool watch. Again, it's really expensive though. A lot of these are just too expensive. And I know bronze adds to the price tag. Yeah, it's funny, the small diver watch, the halfway point was 700. The halfway point in this video is 775. You know, almost $100 more. So bronze watches do tend to be like 10% more expensive, it seems like, than the steel ones. Yeah, this one's not for me. Score of 80. All right, we're out of the good grades, and now we're just in the passing grades. 26th place is the Carigia 01 Bronze. $8,611, 48 millimeters, 300 meters water resistance. Yeah, the craftsmanship with these is fantastic. These are so cool. I really love this design. Steel Dive had that 1945 or something, the Depth Master. Steel Dive homages this. And maybe the Carigia is homaging some other design that's no longer on the market. I don't know who did it first, but this is a really cool watch. The lume actually looks really nice too. There's some lume on that second hand. The logo appears to be lumed in blue. That's very cool. I really like this crown cover. You know, is it actually offering it more protection than regular crown guards? Probably not. But it looks so darn cool. It looks so industrial. The strap is really nice. This leather, you can just tell. You can tell when the leather is something special, and this is something special for sure. It is very thick, a couple millimeters thicker than average. I love bezels like the Panerai Submersible Bronzo that have applied little round markings, and especially with the numbers here on the 15, 30, 45. I love that. It looks so cool. So this is like Panerai inspired, but they're doing their own thing. The case is just so cool. And it's really nice to have, I call it Lume Chapter, all these little lumed markings, because you can actually count seconds in the dark super easily this way. And the vast majority of watches, you're not able to do that. You always need a full lume dial, or you need loomed chapter ring sort of thing. I really like the Carigia, and we're definitely going to see it in the runoff at the end. Score 79. In 27th place is the Longines Legend Bronze, $3,125, 42 millimeters across, 300 meters water resistance. This is a watch it's a steel watch. They make it bronze, and it actually works as a bronze watch, maybe even better than the steel. I really like how this looks. Look, the hands match the case. Yes, just match the hands to the case. Beautiful. The crowns match the case. We've seen so many bronze watches where they do weird stuff where the hands don't match or the crown doesn't match. This is nice. I mean, that should kind of just be like the basic. No, the thing I like about the Longines here, it's curved, it's soft, it has a ton of character and retro style to it. They chose a nice color for it. Style-wise, this is high up. It is a wild card for the end. One thing that holds it back severely is it has just about the worst lume you'll ever see. It's really poor lume on this watch, unfortunately. There's no second lume. These tiny pinprick marks, they'll disappear in 5 minutes. If you charge this thing up, 5 minutes later, you're gonna see nothing except maybe the hour hand. Like you even need the darn hour hand. It's not good lume. And it's unfortunate because earlier versions of this had the numerals loomed. You know, the 3 would be loomed. The full markings were loomed, not these tiny little dots, the full markings. This triangle should probably be filled in. I really just think they're trying to save money on the lume, and that's unfortunate. But the design works really well. The internal rotating bezel actually does work on a bronze watch. Longines proves it here. I think this looks nice. You actually can mix black and some color and the bronze. You need there to be a transition, and that's what this is with the Fume dial. It's green in the center, and it gradually turns into black. That actually works. You can have a black bezel that way. So this is doing a lot of things really well. I do actually like this one. Lume is just unimpressive. Total score of 79. In 28th place is the Venezianico Nerede Bronzo. $1,180, 42 millimeters across, 300 meters water resistance. Talk about value. This is just above 1,000. And then we saw that Longines Zuke or whatever that was almost 3,000 bucks. That's what I mean when I talk about value. This looks gorgeous. It's got a lot of unique stuff. It's got this cross here, the fume pattern. So many things are really refined on this. If you're going to spend a lot of money, I would go for refinement personally. And this one is really refined. Their product shots always look amazing. I haven't seen these things in the flesh, but I bet it looks amazing in person as well. Lume is going to be nice. Lumed hashes on this bezel. Lumed hands and indices. Although the second lume is poor. That second lume pip is really not good. They could have loomed the counterbalance, and I think that would have been a better choice. That would have been a better choice than looming this little paddle here. The counterbalance could be slightly bigger even, and they could just loom that. Yeah, really beautiful watch. Score of 79. In 29th place is the Breitling Super Ocean 44, 6,300 bucks, 44 millimeters, 300 meters water resistance. This is a prime example. They just lazily took the Super Ocean and said, make it bronze. You know, the blue's okay with the bronze. The brown is actually probably better. Hard to say. That neither one is that great. Silicone looks bad with this. It needs to have leather. It's too shiny. It's too sleek. It's too modern. It doesn't match the bronze character whatsoever. Lume is decent. You get decent lume. But for me, the white printing doesn't really match here. The bezel printing. Yeah, they missed it on this one. Score 79. In 30th place is the Wise Adamascus AD8. 890 bucks, 41 millimeters across, 200 meters water resistance. Wise is one of these micro brands that people rave about. It's a refined micro brand. They do a really thin watch. 11.6 is really nice for 200 meters water resistance. Almost 2 millimeters thinner than average. I love their hour hand. It's got kind of an Art Deco-y sort of thing. So it does have some nostalgia to it, which is good for a bronze watch. It does have some curved edges to it. So this one works well as a bronze watch. I do like the green leather as well. Lume is fantastic. Fully loomed bezel. Nice sized chunks of lume around here. You even get lume on the opposite side of that date window. Yeah, Wise is one of the better micro brands, without a doubt. Score of 79. In 31st place is the Spinnaker Tissé SP5060-05. Price of $850. 43 millimeters in diameter, 300 meters water resistance. And it's 16 millimeters thick. For 300 meters, that's more than 2 millimeters thicker than average. It's really thick. It's probably going to weigh a lot. The texture on the dial is too much for me. Actually, you know what's too much for me is the red. I think the texture's fine. The red text, the gold, not bronze hands, it doesn't match the bronze, and then the gold printing, they're clashing. They're clashing with all of this. Like I said before, and then they have this greenish paint on the bezel, but then this like more cream color on the dial. This clashes with that. How many colors are there? Like the hands don't even match the indices in terms of the lume that's inside it. There's so much wrong with this here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe 7, and then 8 for the... There's like 7 or 8 colors. It's way too much. These colors need to match a lot better. It's too much. Lume looks good on the Tissé. It's got good lume. And I have a Spinnaker watch. It has fantastic lume. So they don't cheap out on the lume. And they're charging a lot for this. Score 79. In 32nd place is the Andersman Bronze ANN 093. Maybe there's another number there. Sorry about that. It's 1,888 bucks. It's 44 millimeters, 1,000 meters water resistance. And they understood what is going on here. This particular design is well suited for bronze. I really like it. I love the crosshatch knurling on the crown. It's a real beefy crown. I like the position of it near 4 o'clock. The crown guards look cool. I like the 12369. I like the weathered looking dial. The relief bezel is really cool here. Even the yellow kind of works. This yellowish orange. The colors are quite minimal on this. There's not very much going on, so it works. I think that's important for bronze because the case itself has so much character. You need to tone down everything else. Lume is fantastic. You get a humongous pip. Humongous lollipop on the second. That's very good. And then the minute hand is much more prominent than the other two things. So this is fantastic. One downside is it is very thick, 16 millimeters thick, but the average for 1,000 is 15.7. And that's a population of 44 watches. So it's just about average for a 1,000-meter dive watch, as crazy as that seems. I mean, the deeper you go, the thicker the watch you get. So it comes with the territory. If you want a 1,000-meter dive watch, it's probably going to be thick. I really like the character of this. This is not my favorite watch from Andersman, though. I like the black ones. The darker ones look better to me. Like the PVD black one looks really cool. Total score of 78. In 33rd place is the Movas Bronze Diver 2. 1,720 bucks, 42 millimeters across, 300 meters water resistance. The case looks so cool, where it's rounded on the corners, but then it has these flat edges as well. It kind of looks like an atmospheric diving suit, like the helmet of that. I love these crown guards as well. I really like this big zero here. They have applied markings on the bezel. The rounded bezel looks really cool. This one is so close to being just legendarily cool. I can't with the two colors, with the green and the blue. For me, it's too much. I would love to see this with a dark green bezel. I think that would be absolutely perfect. And I know they're doing kind of a lizard thing, so they have this lizard leather, but I would just like to see it on calf leather with green bezel insert. If I have time, I'll put up a mock-up for you so you can see it. I love doing those mock-ups. It's so much fun. Let's look at the loom. Loom is decent. It's minimal. And on the bezel, you only get the pip. These little markings are going to be shinier than if they weren't there. I do like the circular date cutout too. A lot of character with this one. And it will be in the final runoff. Score of 78. In 34th place is the Benares Mako. 999 bucks, 43 millimeters, 100 meters water resistance. And this is another one that they have the steel one and then they did the bronze. And yeah, I don't know if this was designed to be bronze originally. It doesn't feel that way to me. It's a little bit too angular. Yeah, these really straight lugs don't work with the bronze, in my opinion. There's something a bit off about this one. I love the cartoonish indices here. I really love how that looks. And they're shark teeth, of course. Probably from the Mako shark. I do like that. That is a really cool thing to do. The dial looks cool. Red text is not good here. I think that needs to go. A different color. It needs to be a different color. Maybe pale green, something like that. The red is not good. Very thick, but it is 1,000 meters depth rating. So again, not too, only a millimeter thicker than the average. It does have a helium escape valve too. It's a Chunkosaurus. It's a Lumosaurus. Tons of loom. The chapter ring is not loomed. It's just the major loom plots are so bright that you can actually see the chapter ring in this particular photo. So it's going to blast your face with loom. Total score of 78. In 35th place is the U-Boat Somerso Bronze. 3,300 bucks, 46 millimeters across, 300 meters water resistance. And it's kind of a GMT here. You have a 24-hour hand here. I think it's just slave to the hour hand. It's showing you it's 10 a.m. here. So yeah, I think that's slave to the hour hand. Let's look at the loom. There's the loom. Second loom is very thin. And you get a line here for the day-night, but why? I can't tell if this one's loomed or not. If it is, it's like some pale orange loom or something. Maybe that's the case. Oh, it is. Yeah, it's red. Okay, so that is loomed. The day-night indicator is loomed for you. Cool. There's no loom on the pip. That's just a piece of bronze here. It's not illuminated. It would have been nice to have a little loom pip here. Crown cover. I'm not really sure how much protection that provides, but it does kind of give it some character. Cool choice. Score of 78. 36th place is the Yema Superman Bronze. 1,790 bucks, 41 millimeters, 300 meters water resistance. This is another one that I think it was designed as a steel watch. It has that retro style. It helps that they did a bronze bezel. You know, a ceramic insert here would probably ruin it. This does look really, really cool. The bezel lock here also helps give it that bronze character. I think the Fotina's a little bit off though. It's a little bit too much with the Fotina. Loom looks decent on this one. I would take it off the silicone, put it on leather. I think that's going to give it better character. And it's going to feel better on the wrist, in my opinion. Total score of 77. In 37th place is the Eterna Kontiki Bronze, $2,623, 43 millimeters across, 200 meters water resistance. The bezel is no deco only. You don't get anything else with your bezel. And I think these are in meters. You go down to 18 meters, you can be there 55 minutes, that sort of thing. So just when you descend, you put, however low you're gonna go, you put over the minutes. Or no, you put the triangle over the minutes, and then when it gets to the 22, that's when you come up. You don't have to do decompression. The loom is awesome. Full loom. You have a loom chapter even. They loom all these little markings. I don't know much about Eterna, but apparently they slap loom all over the place. There's technically no loom on the second, but you're going to see it passing over these marks. So you can still count seconds if you want even. I love the green contrast stitch on the leather. That's distinctive. And they beveled these edges. That helps with the bronze character. When you have sharp edges, to me, that doesn't match bronze very well. So I like to see how they've rounded this. The knurling on the bezel helps as well. You've got these kind of big crenellations on it. It looks good. In regular life, it would probably be nicer to have an elapsed time bezel rather than this no deco bezel. But it is cool. And if you're a diver, it'll remind you of diving, probably. Total score of 77. In 38th place is the Seagull Ocean Star Bronze, $1,439, 43.5 millimeters, and 200 meters water resistance. I like the relief bezel. They did two different colors of brown, but I think it works. I don't care for the red though. If this was beige at the end, I think that would actually be better. Loom looks good on this. I like that the pip is a different color from the dial loom, but you're spending a lot of money, $1,500 on a Chinese watch, the Chinese movement. Seagull obviously has a ton of heritage, but it's a weird proposition. They're charging a lot for this thing. Total score 77. In 39th place is the Sacred Crafts Grande Mare, $1,999, 44 millimeters, 300 meters water resistance. My daughter thinks this is really cool, and in the main dive watch video series, I joked that, it looked like some kid found stuff on a beach and assembled it into a watch. It looks pretty rough. You have glass crown guards. This is like beach glass that they reclaimed and turned into your watch. Is it just glued to the brass case or something? I guess it looks cool, but yeah, and this bracelet too, the glass bracelet. I mean, I bang my watches around. I think the glass would break for me, probably. That is odd. It does look cool though. Although the dial and the case don't match. I think the dial should have been something else. I think they might make a different dial. I can't remember. Here's the loom. Loom is okay. Loom is decent. Yeah, a unique one for sure. Total score 77. In 40th place is the Dreamstar Bronze, $995, 45 millimeters, 300 meters water resistance. The bezel only goes to the 15, does not go any farther. And these gigantic circles are very imprecise. That's one reason why you'll usually see a triangle at the top. It's hard to line this up really with whatever you're timing. Like I said, it's just imprecise, that's all. You get some military numbers on here, just a few. You get 18 and 21 and 24, which there's no 24 o'clock, but you get it anyway. 17 thick, so really thick. The crystal is some huge dome thing. Loom is looking kind of weak. Total score 76. In 41st place is the LaVenture Submarine 2, $8,849, 40.5 millimeters across, 200 meters water resistance. And I don't know if that includes the wings here. I'm guessing probably not. I like the bezel. It kind of looks like a sea creature. It's a little quirky. I like the sandwich style. It has a lot of character. That this border around the text for the name, and the name is kind of shaped to that border. That's a cool look. It's kind of retro, kind of old school. I do like that. It's a cool looking one. The color's a little bit off to me. The green is not the most complementary to the bronze, and I don't care for silicone straps. But I do think this has a chance to be in the top 10, so I included it at the end as a wild card. Let's look at the loom. Great loom. Huge loom patterns here. Sandwich style doing its job, giving you really bright loom. That will not disappoint. Score 75. In 42nd place, the Rado Captain Cook Bronze, $2,850. 42 millimeters across and 300 meters water resistance. I like the red date here. I don't know if it's roulette or just it's red all the time, but that's cool. Love to see those. It's got the little anchor that spins around or flips or whatever. That's cool. It's got some character. The bezel doesn't have any lume though, so that's disappointing. They do give you lume on the other side of the date window, but not on the bezel. It's okay. It has a character of its own. Not particularly bronzy though. It's just kind of bronze as an afterthought. It works. It works as bronze, but it doesn't have a bronze character necessarily. Total score 75. In 43rd place is the Edox Skydiver. $2,100. 42 millimeters across, 300 meters water resistance. Why is it a skydiver? Oh, like you jump out of a plane with it. Okay. All right, so this is a skydiving watch. Couldn't get the full shot, but you can see the lume is kind of weird. You've got like darker lume mixed with lighter lume on all the indices. They didn't turn the light out and they didn't pull the camera away so we could see the full pattern, but that's all you get. You get a lume pip, but nothing else on the bezel is lumed. Actually, probably looks pretty cool. It has character. There it is. Score 75. In 44th place is the Tag Heuer Octavia Bronze. $3,900. 42 millimeters and 100 meters water resistance. 100, so it's not really a dive watch. I mean, it is. It's in the video, and I'm giving it a passing grade as a bronze watch. You know, it's a chronometer. All these other sorts of things pull up the score. Yeah, it's one of these steel watches they just turned into a bronze watch, and it works. It's the bronze doesn't like ruin it or anything, but it doesn't strike me as a bronze watch. And there's a round. The first round of the Runoff Rounds is character, bronze character. It's not very bronze. Maybe it would do okay. Lume is great on this one. In terms of the character, though, I think you can find there's a lot of watches that match bronze character much better than this one. Score 74. In 45th place is the Zelos 195 CH SBS. $883, 46 millimeters in diameter, 700 meters water resistance. That crown cover is ridiculous. You've got the chain that's gonna rattle around all day. In steel, not brass. Yeah, I admire the boldness of like how huge it is and ridiculous, but there's not really anything charming about it is the problem. It's got a few screws on the dial. Let's look at the lume. Lume is decent, but no bezel pip because it's a fixed bezel dive watch. No minute markings. It's not the best. Oh, I said there were only 2 passing grade fixed bezel watches, but it turns out there's 3. So this is one of the 3 passing grade fixed bezel watches. There's the Steel Dive 1939. There was the Fundaria Navale, I think that's what it's called, and then there's this Zelos. The only one that I put in the runoff is that Steel Dive 1939. Total score of 73. In 46th place is the Cobalt Seal Bronze, $4,225, 43.5 millimeters across, 300 meters water resistance. It has great bronze character. It's very low scoring. There's no brand strength to it. I think this color's a little bit off. That's why it's not in the runoff. It does have good character, though. I do like that. I think they're charging way too much money. This was made by James Gandolfini from that mobster show. But is the bezel just off? It's too bad that in the product shot, it's like one click to the left. It makes it look weird. Lume is poor, very poor. Look at these hands. It's almost as if they're not lumed at all. So, and it's really thick. I would go with something else. 4,000. If you have $4,000, you could get like every watch in the Steel Dive catalog. That would be so much cooler than getting this Cobalt. Just get every watch that Steel Dive makes instead of getting the Cobalt. That's what I would do. Score 73. In 47th place is the Oris Diver 65 Date. $2,900, 38 millimeters, 100 meters water resistance. I can't remember if all these colors are in the bronze. Sorry about that. I think they are, actually. The only one that really looks good is the black. Oh yeah, the blue has a steel case with a bronze bezel. It's the Bucherer or something. That one looks sweet. I think the Diver 65 is okay. It's done all right in like my color series ones, like the green one or something like that. I think it's done okay in some of these ones. Like maybe the Oris Diver Pink actually did okay in the pink color series video, but I had to like soften the standards for it to be able to do it. It's barely making it in. The 100 meters water resistance really hurts it. I'm only recommending it if you swap it to a leather. So I didn't put this in the runoff round at the end. It's just, it underperforms specs wise. The bezel looks cool. I think this totally does work as a bronze watch. And they put bronze, you know, the text matches everything. The hands match. They did a good job here. Lume is decent on this Oris. I mean, the indexes are kind of pale. It's decent though, it's okay. For this particular video, I don't think it's a standout. It's kind of lower of the pack. Total score 72. In 48th place is the Anonimo Militare bronze. $2,922, 43.5 millimeters, 120 meters water resistance. That's some poor water resistance. It has the small seconds, that gives it a little bonus here. This is really cool, this crown lock here you got. What did I call that? I called it a locking lever. This little piece goes over the crown. That is really cool. I like that a lot. Cool style with the 12-4-8. Lume looks decent. You do get second lume on the small seconds. Yeah, for a fixed bezel watch, it's okay, but those don't tend to do very well. Not recommended for your dive trip. You know, it's not gonna be that great actually diving. Total score 72. In 49th place is the Ager Krieger Sunset. $800, 43 millimeters, 200 meters water resistance. It looks pretty cool. I think the Fotina is a little bit too dark. Just kind of like a Submariner's thing going on. I do like this like oblong-y diamond. What do you call that? I do like that diamond here for the 12 o'clock index. Could not find a lume shot, but per description there is no lume on the bezel. That's why it's not recommended. If they had lume on that pip, it would be recommended. Score 72. In 50th place is the Baum et Mercier Clifton Club bronze. $1,700, 42 millimeters across, 100 meters water resistance. Again, don't mix brown and black. It looks bad. It's a bad look. This one is not as bad as the other one we saw recently. I mean, sometimes you can make brown and black work. That Christopher Ward has brown and black, but they do a fume, so it kind of works a little better. This one, and then with the blue, it does look kind of Egyptian here with the gold and blue. Maybe that's what they're going for. Yeah, it kind of looks like a scarab even. I'm getting Egyptian vibes from this. Lume is, whoever took the lume shot was shaking or something. I mean, it's hard to take these low light shots and get a good shot. I'm glad I was able to find one. There's no lume on the bezel, so not recommended. Apparently recommended if strap swap, but it has a leather. Okay, so, all right. So this probably should have been a score 74. Would have been a little bit higher in the ranking. I didn't realize that's a leather strap. We'll say score of 74. In 51st place is the Vulcane Skin Diver Bronze. $2,190, 38 millimeters, 200 meters water resistance. The purple Vulcane Skin Diver in steel looks absolutely amazing. Looks-wise, this one is solid. It's not a great dive watch. There's no lume on the bezel, for example. And the timing bezel really is a hallmark of a dive watch. So when you're missing on that, it's really hard to recommend it. And that's kind of built into the scoring system that way for a reason. Let's see the lume. Yeah, here's your lume. No second lume either. Or maybe there's a tiny sliver here. I don't think so. I think it's just shining off that index. So yeah, there's no second lume on this. You can see it's just gold the whole way. Pretty watch, not recommended. Inca block, that's nothing to brag about. Every movement has something like that to protect the jewel. It's not anything special. It's better than not having it. I'm just saying every watch pretty much has it. It's an automatic watch. Or something like it. They have the, whatever Seiko and Miyota's version of it is. It's basically the same thing. Total score of 71. In 52nd place is the William Wood Heritage. $1,187, 41 millimeters across, 100 meters water resistance. And again, a pretty looking watch. And I will recommend it if you take it off this fire hose strap. Put it on some kind of leather. I think it would look good on black or brown leather. It's 100 meters. That's one of the problems on this one. Does have a sandwich dial. That's cool. Checker pattern on the chapter ring. That looks cool. It's a good looker. It's just not very good stats-wise. Yeah, it's overly thick. The average is 13.4, so this is 2 millimeters thicker than average. Probably if it was just a little thinner, it'd be recommended even with the fire hose thing. Here's that loom on the William Wood. It looks okay. Total score of 71. In 53rd place is the Lejeune Hammerhead Bronze. $1,252, 39 millimeters, 200 meters water resistance. Loom is decent. I don't care for the sunburst. Otherwise, they kept it pretty classy here with the colors. I don't care for the silicone, and maybe it's just these types of cases that it's kind of 90-degree angle eye shape cases. It always looks like the lugs are too narrow. It's probably right, though. It's probably the right ratio. It just looks weird when it curves like this. I'm not a fan of that case style, personally. Total score 71. In 54th place, the Grupo Gamma Peacemaker PN08. $855, 43 millimeters, 200 meters water resistance. A while ago, I think these were the main guys doing high-quality Panerai homages. Now we have Steel Dive doing it probably half the price of Grupo Gamma and equivalent quality, in my opinion. Well, it's not equivalent quality. These use a Swiss Auto, and that does cost a lot more money. Swiss movements are a step up in quality. Loom is looking really good on this, but no second loom. Arguably, it's not as big of a deal when you have a loom chapter, so I didn't give it the penalty, because you can see the second hand passing over every single dot. You know, in that case, you could, because the thing is, you want to be able to tell that your watch is running when you're diving, and so no second loom is a problem, except when you have so much loom on the dial, then you can actually tell it's running. So it's probably okay. The sandwich dial is looking really cool. And the fume, like I said, fume is a great way to add some character to your dial on a bronze watch. Total score of 71. In 55th place is the Matthew Tissot H901 BZN, $907, 42 millimeters across, 100 meters water resistance. I don't care for this black bezel. Their bronze is looking very coppery, so I don't know exactly why they did that. Here's the loom. It's kind of just ripping off the Submariner. It says vintage on the dial. That's cheesy. We can see that it's vintage. You don't have to tell us. In 56th place is the Grupo Gamma Peacemaker PN20. $972, 43 millimeters, 200 meters water resistance. So this is the small seconds one. That other one was the loom chapter one with the center seconds. Why can't you guys do both? Just give us the loom chapter and the small seconds. That's what I'd like to see. For a fixed bezel watch, it's doing okay, but not doing well compared to dive watches that have a timing bezel. Again, I do like the fume on this. These do look nice, but they're heavily Panerai inspired. There is the loom. The loom is looking great. Score of 68. 7th place is the VDB 3XL. $4,250, 46 millimeters, and 200 meters water resistance. Is this the helium escape valve? That is very cool. This big button over here. That would be a fidget toy for sure. Tiny little dial here. I do like this like Roman or Greek, I don't know which one, this pattern on the outside. That looks really cool. Or is it Chinese? I'm mixing up my cultures of the world. It has a crown lock, which is nice. Crown should be bronze though. I don't know why the crown is steel. It's extra thick, and I'm sure a lot of that is due to this gigantic crystal they have on the top. You buy it for the crystal though. It sort of seems like a submarine or something. The only reason to get this one is for the rule of cool. It's not a very good tool. Let's look at the loom. Loom exists. It's more loom than I expected. The hands are gonna fade instantly, just instantly. Even if you're out in the sun, you go down in the water, they'll be gone in like 2 minutes, I'm sure. So the loom is disappointing. The hands are tiny. Like, I don't understand. Everything's so tiny on the inside of this thing. It's kind of weird. Total score of 68. In 58th place, the Hamilton Khaki Aviation Pilot Pioneer Bronze. $1,545, 43 millimeters, 100 meters water resistance. Got your small seconds. It's a pilot watch with a timing bezel. And yeah, the pilot watches with timing bezels exist. I wanted to see how it would do as a dive watch. It does not do well. It's getting a D grade. So here's the lume. No second lume, obviously. Cathedral hands are looking cool though. And the syringe minute. I mean, it's a pilot watch. Score 65. 59th place is the March LAB Bonzer. $1,774. 41 millimeters. 100 meters water resistance. Is the date loomed? Let's take a look. It is not. Wow, only the two hands are loomed, and they're very thin. I like the Art Deco. They're getting a bronze character. Color on the bezel is not good. This is just weird, this neon green for the date. I'm not saying I'm opposed to it. It's anachronistic to everything else that have going on. It clashes with everything else the watch is doing. It is cool though. I'd like to see it on some other watch. Total score of 64. In last place, 60th place, is the Panerai Radiomir Bronzo PAM 760. $18,600. 47 millimeters across, 100 meters water resistance. It's a beauty. No question about that. The blue hands are cool. It's a very distinctive watch, a very famous watch, easy to recognize. It's a cool one for sure with a lot of history. Not a great dive watch. Lume looks good. No second hand though. Total score of 48. All right, so those were all the bronze dive watches over $775. Obviously, a highlight was the Panerai Submersible Bronzo. Corregia also. A lot of cool watches. This H2O is really cool. It's not capturing the bronze aesthetic as well as some of the other watches, like obviously the Panerai. But you'll see that in the final runoff, which I suppose I may as well do. I don't think I have any more to say here. So with that, let's go to the final runoff. All right, the top 10 bronze dive watches runoff round. As I mentioned before, there are subjective factors. I'm going to take that raw score. I'm going to shrink it down to 70%. I think it's 70% for this one. And then I add points on top. I'll rank all the watches, and then they'll get points based on that ranking. First round is character, then color, then handsomeness, then lume, then brand strength, then affordability. Oh, before I do the rounds, I'm going to show you all the 40 finalists. So let's take a look at those. Okay, so 20 of these watches are just the top 10 watches from the two price categories. Here are the top 10 from under $775. Here are the top 10 from over $775. And I'll just refresh your memory what they were. We've got the Evox DV2-3 Bronze, Steel Dive Ploprof, Citizen Pro Master, Steel Dive SD 1945 Deep Dive, Boldr Odyssey Bronze Serpentine, Marinus Samui Brass, Octopus Kraken Bron Diver, Steel Dive SD 1950S, 546105 Homage, Review Tommen. So those were the under 775. Here are the ones over 775. First, the H2O Tiburon. Swapped out the dial for the blue one. I think that looks a little better. Christopher Ward C60 Pro. Omega Seamaster 300 Bronze Gold. Sinn T50 Gold Bronze. Panerai Submersible PAM 507. H2O Orca Bronze. Glycine Combat Sub. Aquatico Supercharger. Squale 1521 Bronze. Bremont Argonaut. Okay, so those were 20 watches I rattled off. Those were the top 10 scoring ones. Now there's going to be 20 wild cards. I mentioned this during the video, but I did this whole process that I'm about to show you. I did it twice. I had a few different wild cards. I swapped a few out because they didn't perform well. But here we go. Here are the 20 wild cards. Chosen to be the ones that would excel. So tighter competition here at the end. We've got this Zelos Hammerhead V3, Corregia 01 Bronze, Longines Legend Bronze, Venezianico Neredo Bronzo, Tudor Black Bay 58, Addis Dive Willard, Luminox Sport Timer, La Venture Submarine 2, Marie Lacroix, Hrodland Avenger, San Martin Submersible, Eterna Kontiki Bronze, Baltic Aquascaf Bronze, Yema Superman Bronze, Wicked Watch Pearl Diver, Steel Dive 1939S, Andersman Bronze, Movas Bronze Diver 2, Benares Mako, and the Vancouver Watch Corp Crossfire. There they are. There are all the 40 watches that will be in this runoff round. These are the only ones eligible to be in the top 10. And like I said, I did try some different options. And these are competitive. All these ones are competitive. Top 10s are sort of predetermined just because they have the strong scores. And here's the lume. I'll use these lume shots later. Some good looking lume. In fact, the bronze watches appear to have better lume than, like, if you just took random dive watches, it appears that bronze watches typically have better lume for whatever reason. All right, so if I didn't do any subjective factors, this would be the top 10. Just based on the scoring system alone, these are the top 10. I'm seeing some issues with it, and maybe you are too. So that's the whole point of these runoff rounds, is to kind of weed out the ones that don't quite fit. You know, on paper, maybe they're a good watch. I'm looking at the Evox. Spoiler alert, I'm looking at the Evox. It has really great specs, but I don't think it's quite getting the feel. Oh, and as we go along, we're going to keep an eye on this Tudor here, the Tudor Black Bay 58. I'm just going to keep it over here in this little yellow box, and you can see what its rank is. At the beginning, it's about middle of the pack. It's ranked 23, just due to score alone, this score of 81. All right, so round 1 is bronze character. I've talked about this a bunch already, but there's 15 descriptors, and literally I was just brainstorming randomly and just wrote down all these words, and then I found out there were 15, and I was like, you know what? Let's just do the 15 words. Every watch I made kind of sepia tone. I just made them sort of transparent and put them on this sepia background. I took each of the descriptors and said, do they apply? Yes or no? Panerai submersible bronzo. All 15 of these words: old-timey, mysterious, smooth, charming, funky, dark, retro, warm, comforting, rich, tattered/worn, history, broken in, familiar but different, nostalgic. All of that stuff applies to the bronzo. That's why it's so... These words weren't describing the bronzo necessarily. These words were just like, I think about bronze and what is the metal, what kind of descriptors does the metal elicit in my head? And this is what I came up with. I don't know, you may disagree with some of these, but that's what I did. So the more that the design of the watch was correlated with these descriptors, the higher of a bronze character I think it has. For example, the Carigia, it had a bunch of these. Didn't have all of them. It's not necessarily warm, for example, but it does have a lot of these. Omega actually didn't have that many. It's really just a copy-paste of a steel watch, and you can kind of tell. It has some retro stuff, that sort of thing. Didn't quite get it. Squale got practically nothing. I really think they missed the boat on the Squale. It doesn't seem like a bronze watch. It looks like a steel watch. They didn't capture the bronze character. Zelos maybe should have gotten a little higher score. But anyway, let's take a look. Here are all the watches. So I scored them, and then for tiebreakers, like, there's 3 that have 13. It's like, I just look them and subjectively say, between the 3 of them, which has a higher bronze character. San Martin has the highest there. This is highly subjective, but that's how it all shook out. Citizen has the worst bronze character. Okay, so after round 1, 5 watches are out of the top 10. All these 5 watches didn't score very well. Where did Glycine end up? Glycine, it got 5. It got a third of the bronze character descriptors, but that put it pretty low. So yeah, Glycine's out. It's not particularly bronzy. It works. Like I said before, some of these designs work as bronze, but they don't necessarily have bronze character in the design itself. And these are the places it went down. So these arrows just show you how many places it went down in the ranking. There's huge moves right at the beginning of every one of these videos. And then after round 1, Bronzo moved up 5 spaces. Steel Dive moved up 9 spaces. Good grief, this Movas moved 22 spaces. Tudor Black Bay Bronze went all the way up into 5th place. It was 23rd place, and now it's up into 5th place. So that was a huge move for Tudor. It was certainly helped by this character round. Christopher Ward went down a bunch of spots. It's now in the lower 5. And yeah, Marinez joined the party. Boldr joined the party. All right, let's go to round 2. Round 2 is color. I wanted to assess how good the color is, the color impression overall. So a lot of it's gonna be cohesiveness with the watch itself, but it's, cohesiveness of the dial to the case, the bezel insert to the dial, stuff like that. Does it match the character is also something I was thinking about. So, for example, this octopus Kraken, there's some bad color stuff going on here. Not good. The Steel Dive Deep Dive, for example, it seems okay, but this orange is really making it bad. You should not have orange on it. It may not exactly be orange, but that's what's coming across. Review Tommen actually should be lower. Review Tommen's not a player, so that doesn't actually matter all that much. now that I think about it. But yeah, it should have been penalized more for the silver hands. That was an oversight. Sorry about that. The green dial looks great with the bronze. That's what I was kind of focused on with this one. But I can see now looking at it, it needed to go down a little bit. That's how I rank them for color. Green goes well with bronze. You can tell that bronze and green go together. Bronze will turn green, so those colors kind of make sense together. It's a natural thing to happen. Baltic looks amazing. Oh, and for example, how I do this. So color, there's 10 points allocated for color. So for example, this Yema is in, what place is that in? Yema's in 30th place. So 30 divided by 40 equals 0.75 times 10 equals 7.5. So the Yema got 7.5 points. And I don't round these in the actual spreadsheet. And so that allows very precise ranking at the end. There's no tiebreakers or anything. Everything is in order with a different score at the end. That's one reason why I did it this way. But yeah, let's see how it shook out. So after the color round, Steel Dive Deep Dive is out. Ploprof is out. Tudor Black Bay Bronze is actually out. I don't care for this brown. It just kind of looks ugly to me. It's subjective, I know. Christopher Ward, it's not all that bad. It only moved down 3 spots. Okay, standings after round 2, color. The Boldr moved way up. Longines moved up. Longines looks fantastic. This is looking good to me. These colors are looking good. I like that. All right, so that was round 2. Round 3 is handsomeness. Okay, so I rated it. Is it pleasing to look at? Is it bold? And is it original? In one of these categories, I needed to have some way to penalize the homage watches. The Steel Dive, the Herwad Land, the Addis Dive. And I put it into this category, the handsomeness. Pleasing gets double points in the final score. So anyway, the numbers, don't worry about the numbers. I'm just going to show you how this turned out for handsomeness. This is how I ranked them for handsomeness. I think the Panerai, hands down, is the best looking bronze dive watch. So that's the most handsome. Kariga is also super handsome. Omega is actually pretty darn handsome too, even though it's not necessarily getting that bronze character so well. There's a ton of elements to choosing a good watch, and that's why I do these different rounds. But here's how they shook out for handsomeness in my subjective view. Okay, eliminations after round 3. The only one eliminated is the San Martin Submersible. That one's out. The new one that's in is the Anders Man. Cool, yeah, it looks good. Longines went down a little bit. Kariga went up a bunch. Kariga's in 2nd place now. Tudor Black Bay is actually down to 21st place, almost back to where it started. So Tudor has fallen dramatically. You've still got 3 more rounds. It could still come up. We'll see what happens. All right, let's go to the next round, round 4. Round 4 is Loom. So I took the Loom shots and I just ordered them most impressive down to least impressive. This is where I put them. Tritium Loom always gets a bit of a boost because it is really sweet to have Loom that just lasts all night. It's always there for you no matter what's happening. This one does have conventional Loom on the 2nd, so that's not ideal. Eterna is more impressive. The picture of it is, but Tritium Loom's on all night. You don't have to charge it up. So like I said, those always get a little bit of a boost. Also the Aquatico, that's Tritium as well on the dial. I still think the Zelos beats it. Zelos Hammerhead is just so darn impressive. Full Loom bezel and Loom chapter. It's breathtaking. That hands down is the best. But we've got some close ones behind it. So that was Longines Legend, horrible Loom. Eliminations after round 4. Steel Dive 1939, bad Loom, it's out. Longines Legend, horrible Loom, get out of here. You're out. You're out, Longines. Yema, the Loom was actually kind of okay. Where's Yema? Oh, here's Yema. Yema Loom was not that impressive. They didn't give a good shot of it. You know, maybe if they had taken a better picture, it would have been a little bit higher. I kind of don't think so, though. I think this Loom is not very good. So that one's out. The pip is really small, for example. That's not good. Okay, so after round 4, Loom. Like I said, these 3 are out. What's in? It's easy to find the ins. There's the green arrows here. Vancouver Watch Corp Crossfire. That had great Loom. Where's that Vancouver? Here it is. Ranked highly for Loom. Wicked Watch Pearl Diver. Wicked Watch Pearl Diver. That's right here. Great Loom. Marie Lacroix. Also great Loom. Marie Lacroix. Where's that? Here it is. Marie Lacroix. Good Loom. All right, so that's the top 10 at the end of round 4. Tudor Black Bay Bronze is actually lower than it started. Its Loom is not that great. Black Bay Bronze is right here. Tiny little pip. It's not the best Loom. It's in the bottom 25% of Loom for these bronze watches. Round 5 is brand strength. There's only 8 points to this round. It's not as much of a consideration for bronze watches because the big brands really just don't make bronze watches that much. Only 8 points for this round. The way these are ranked is according to watchcharts.com. And I pulled this about 6 months ago. I ranked them. I didn't do it again. But basically, they just list the popularity of the watch brands. I just put them in the spreadsheet, ranked them, and that's where these are. Up until about, I'm trying to remember where it stops. I think it stops around Aquatico. I think that's as low as it went. Maybe Corrigia. Everything here, like the bottom half basically, was ranked by me. Subjectively, how do I think the brand strength is? Honestly, the brand strength isn't very high for any of these down here. Review Tommen, I guess maybe. Not really though, so, you know, that I did that the best I could. It's hard to judge that objectively. Wicked Watch Pearl Diver is out. That's the only thing that's out after round 5. So not much changed. Longines is back in. It actually has really high brand strength for a bronze watch especially. Yeah, Longines is right up there near the top. Ahead of Citizen, wow. And Tudor came back up. Now the final round is affordability. Affordability, after I do affordability, I'll just show you the top 10. I'll do them one at a time, going from 10, 9, 8, down to 1. So it'll be a little bit more interesting that way. So I'll just show you what the final ranking of Tudor is. Once you put affordability in there, it's down to 26. It's in the bottom half for bronze watches, unfortunately. That's how I came up. I don't think it's particularly interesting. Doesn't have all that much character. They're cooler bronze watches in my opinion when you evaluate everything. So final ranking, 26. Let me explain the affordability. So this is just 8 points as well. Basically all that it is so the rank will determine 6 of the points. If it's over $1,500, that's an extra -1. If it's over $2,500, it's another -1. So how that shakes out is like this Panerai submersible, it's going to get the full 8-point penalty. The Vancouver Crossfire, that's going to only get a -1 penalty. And these are points. So before this, if the Panerai was a 95 and the Vancouver was an 88, well, after this, they're going to be tied because this would be an 87 and then this would be also an 87. So yeah, it makes a huge difference. It's really going to shuffle some things around. But affordability is a huge concern. Panerai's great, but we don't all have $20,000 for a watch. After all that lead up, here are the top 10 bronze dive watches. All right, I'm ready, I'm pumped. Let's do the top 10 bronze dive watches. Here they are. In 10th place is the San Martin Submersible SN0078Q. It's 44 millimeters, 15 millimeters thick. It's $390. This is my number 10. Beautiful. San Martin did a good job here. The Fume dial looks really awesome. The relief bezel looks good. They have a humongous pip. The lume is not going to disappoint you. San Martin generally does a great job with lume. This San Martin bronze pilot watch I have has tremendous, unbelievably good lume. I like the little submarine. I like the circular date window. It's a great choice. That leather looks really nice too. It had great character. That was one of the strongest features for these subjective factors. Lume impressiveness actually was not very high, 3 out of 10. But when you put all this stuff together, it got up in there. Total score of 86. In 9th place, coming out of nowhere, is the Zelos Hammerhead V3. 44 millimeters, 15 millimeters thick, $449. And yeah, the affordability at the end really did change some things. I mean, that's why it got up in the end. You see here, the most impressive thing on here is lume impressiveness. It got 10 out of 10. If it didn't get 10 out of 10 lume, like if it just got 9 out of 10 lume, wouldn't be in the top 10. That is why it is here. It literally has the best lume of any bronze dive watch. Let's look at that lume. Yes. This is the best. There's none that is more impressive than this one. To me personally, you may think otherwise. This is as impressive as I've seen on a bronze dive watch. The issue with Zelos is it's so hard to get them. They make such a cool watch, so I had to give them a seat at the table. They deserve a seat at the table, even though their watches just sell out and it's hard to get them and all that sort of thing. This one was a surprise to me because at first glance, when I first saw this, I thought, the color's not quite right. But the more I looked at it, I realized, and it doesn't get the highest character. It doesn't have 12 out of 12 character. It has 3 out of 12 character for bronze character. It's a little bit bold. It's a little bit exciting. It's you've got you've got all these cuts around here. There's so many different angles. There's a lot to look at. The character of the shape is almost overwhelming the character of the bronze itself. It should be the other way around, or it should be a harmony. So anyway, it made it in here. Loom is definitely carrying it. It has other redeeming things about it as well. But yeah, each one of these watches will excel at different things, and it's all a balance. But this is definitely the number 9. If you see an opportunity to get it and you like it, I would go for it with Zelos, because that opportunity will not come up again. Total score of 86. In 8th place is the Wicked Watch Pearl Diver. 40 millimeters across, 12.8 thick, $444. Very conventional size. It's the second smallest in diameter on this top 10. This particular dial is so gorgeous, this blue. Lume is fantastic on this. I love to see that. Lume is a hallmark of a dive watch, so I love to see good lume on a dive watch. Case shape is simple, but it goes with the bronze. All the stuff is cohesive. This is a great choice. Total score of 87. In 7th place is the Vancouver Watch Corp Crossfire. 43 millimeters across, 13.5 millimeters thick, $299. That's a great price. This is the cheapest one in the top 10. If you want a bronze watch, if you want a good one, it's going to be $300 plus. So that's just something to be aware of with bronze watches. They are more expensive. It has crown guards on here. It's taking a lot of design cues from the Panerai submersible. The 2 lines here at the 12 o'clock, the cushion case, the lugs look similar to the Panerai. They deviated here with these crown guards. And it is hard to do crown guards on a cushion case, but they did a good job. This actually works well with the design. It looks totally cohesive to me. They did white everywhere. Normally with bronze, you kind of have to do Fotina. This one, you don't really need it. I like how they did this. Lume is fantastic on this too. You get the countdown all the way to the 15. That's really nice to have. The lume looks strong on the dial as well. I like their funny hands here. There's a little diamond in the middle of this arrow hand. That's cool. Color match date wheel. Total score of 89. In 6th place is the Baltic Aquascaf Bronze. 39 millimeters, smallest diameter in the top 10. 13 millimeters thick, $673. The price is higher. That's the highest we've seen so far. I think you get what you're paying for with this Baltic though. The design is so beautiful. As I mentioned, my daughter saw all the watches. This was the one she thought looked the best of all of them. And I don't agree. I like the Panerai submersible better, but I see why she says that, and it's definitely in the top. I put it high. So handsomeness, yeah, I gave it 11 out of 12 for handsomeness. I do think it's one of the most handsome watches in the total bunch. Character, 11 out of 12 too. As we go up, you'll see higher numbers here, and maybe even a higher affordability penalties to go with them. But yeah, this did well for the subjective. The original score of 74 was not really top of the class. It'd be a 76 if it was on leather. I think it would look really nice on a brown or a black leather. Lume is decent. It's a render thing. I hate when they do render things. Just take a picture of your watch in the dark. It's not that hard. I really like this bezel. That is fantastic. And the crown guards. I mean, it's just a beautiful watch. Score of 89. In 5th place is the Sinn T50 Gold Bronze. 41 millimeters, 12.3 thick. Fantastic. $5,860. Very expensive. This one has an 1/8, has 12.5% gold. I don't know how many carats that is. 24 times 0.125 equals 3. It's 3 karat gold on this. I think the gold helps the bronze not to patina as quickly or something like that. I'm sure it's really cool. As I mentioned before, all kinds of cool features. The safety bezel, the moisture capsule inside of it so it won't fog up on the inside. 500 meters water resistance, but only 12.3 thick. That is extremely impressive. It's a real looker too. I love the blue. I think green dials are the best with bronze. Blue is a close second. Black is probably 3rd place for me. I think blue just looks really good with the bronze. Lume looks cool. I love that they're different colors here. I thought it was very handsome, very good looking watch. Bronze character, not totally. It was kind of low on that one actually. And lume impressiveness too, not very high on that. It's also getting a huge affordability penalty. Brand strength. Sinn has high brand strength. Yeah, good brand strength on this Sinn. Total score of 90. In fourth place, so happy to see this here. When I first saw this watch on Instagram, I was like, yes, that is a fantastic bronze watch. They are tapping into a really nice character. It's the Carigia 01 bronze. 48 millimeters across, 15.8 millimeters thick, $8,611. It's getting the full 8-8 penalty for affordability. It's very expensive. It just looks so cool. Man, I love how this looks. There it is in the dark, fantastic lume. You get all the markings. I call it lume chapter. You get the 7 with the slash through it. Yeah, I love seeing Arabics in the dark, and all these dots are fantastic too. The craftsmanship on this is really, really excellent as well. Yeah, this is a special watch, special company. If you can't afford it though, that Steel Dive 1945 Deep Dive is a nice alternative to this. But yeah, the Carigia is, if you're in the market for a Carigia, I think it's definitely a bold piece. I love these applied markings on the bezel. You know, that's a Panerai thing, but it works. It just works. It's a bold piece. Total score of 90. In third place is the H2O Tiburon, 43 millimeters across, 11.4 only thick, and $972. It's a beautiful watch. The blue actually is the best color I think they have. The green is okay. I think the green's okay. I don't think I was able to mix and match with the bezel. That's probably why we see the blue one here. I don't know. Green one's cool too. You can customize everything with this brand, so just, you know, tell them which bezel you want, tell them which hands you want, tell them which dial you want. I mean, it depends on the model, but in terms of character, I thought it scored pretty well. It's not at the top of the pack by any means. Color, same. Lume impressiveness. This lume shot has a different bezel. It's really hard to find these lume shots. But this bezel is fully illuminated. Everything on it is lumed. So that's really nice. Impressive lume on these. Impressive size. They're not actually that expensive either. H2O is really cool. I don't think they have all that much recognition, but they're doing some really good stuff over there. Total score of 92. In second place is the Boldr Odyssey Bronze Serpentine. 45.5 millimeters, 14.5 thick, and it's $649. And yeah, this is not their exact current model. The current model gets the same score. I think this one looks a little better. That's why I did it. And you can't actually buy this right now. I did see these new on eBay, for example. You can still get this exact one. I love the applied markings on this bezel. The lume looks really cool too. You've got lume up to the 15 mark. That's great. 6 o'clock date, texture dial. The green is really nice. The case is really cool. I love these angles. It's looking kind of industrial, but yeah, it didn't totally match the bronze character. You know, only 8 out of 12. It was missing things like warm. It's not necessarily warm or comforting, but it's getting all these other descriptors of bronze. And 500 meters water resistance, that's great. Yeah, this is one of Boldr's earlier designs, the Odyssey. It's looking good. Total score of 93. In first place, you know what it's gonna be. I mean, I thought about just saying it from the beginning of the video, but I left it a little bit up to people's imagination, but I didn't hide it too much. The number one bronze dive watch is the Panerai Submersible PAM 507. It's 47 millimeters across. It is 14.4 thick. It's $20,000. And it's not in Panerai's current catalog. I think they only have that 42 millimeter one right now. I think the very original one didn't have the power reserve. This one was second, I believe. It's just perfect. It's perfect. It's the perfect bronze watch. I mean, if you have a small wrist, it's not the perfect one for you. You probably want the 42 millimeter. They just did. They captured lightning in a bottle. I think I said that earlier. You know, I just list 15 characteristics of bronze and everything applies here. But I'll just go down the card. Yeah, character, perfect. Perfect character. Color, in my opinion, perfect. And that was a surprise. When I first saw this green, you know, one of the tricks in PowerPoint is you can make text, I don't know if it's a trick, but you use the little eyedropper to capture the color of something, so your text can match the color exactly. Well, I captured this color, and I was like, that's a weird color of green. It's very muted. It's very plain. It's not vibrant at all. It's not impressive. It's none of those things. But it works perfectly with the bronze. It's really interesting how they did that. Yeah, it kind of subverted my expectations there. Because I tend to think like the brighter the color, the better. But in terms of a bronze watch, that's not the case. I think the very best color is this kind of muted green. That's the best color for a bronze dive watch. I love the applied markings. I love all these little slashes here. You know, I like that they have 15, 30, 45. This locking lever over the crown is excellent. It gives it so much character, but it also serves a useful purpose. And I think it looks really cool in bronze. Handsomeness, I gave it 12 out of 12. Brand strength, it's the highest one in here. Well, Omega might be the highest, actually. I can't remember exactly, but it gets 8 out of 8 for brand strength. -8 penalty here. And if it didn't have that -8 penalty, it'd be 106. Nothing else would come close. Like, okay, for example, Corrigia bronze, if I take away the 8 penalty, this would be a 98. The Panerai would be 106. So the closest competitor is still 8 points below it. Panerai just knocked it out of the park. It's just the best dive watch. Oh, let me show you. Here's the lume. Lume is not the strongest feature about it. Yeah, 4 out of 10 for lume. That's probably its biggest shortcoming. Oh, and the size, if you have a small wrist. There it is. So there's those top 10. Panerai Submersible, the Boldr Odyssey, H2O Tiburon, Corrigia 01 Bronze, Sinn T50, Baltic Osquiscaf, Vancouver Watch Corp Crossfire, Wicked Watch Pearl Diver, Zelos Hammerhead, and San Martin Submersible. All right, I'll show you 5 runners-up as well. First runner-up is the Christopher Ward C60 Pro 300 Bronze. The main thing holding this back was the color. I don't think the bezel should be black. There's something off here with the color. It didn't stack up with the other ones. If they did this in a dark green with like a bronze bezel, I think that would look really nice, actually. The second runner-up is the Venezianico Nerede Bronzo. I don't really have critiques with it. I don't know. Okay, lume. Oh, 4 out of 10. Okay, so the lume could be more impressive. It's tough. This is above average lume for a dive watch. It's stiff competition in this particular video. The Fume dial is so good. The bezel is so good. This is a cool watch. I think affordability hurt it. Oh, only -3. Anyway, that was my runner-up number 2. Runner-up number 3. The only fixed bezel dive watch that is getting a mention here is the Steel Dive 1939S. It's 47 millimeters, 16 thick, crazy thick, $439. It's a cool one. I wanted to have one fixed bezel watch, so I may have put my thumb on the scale a little bit for this one, I'll be honest. But there it is. We have one fixed bezel in the top 15. Oh, and the lume on this Steel Dive is not great. Runner-up number 4 is the Marie Lacroix Acon Venture Bronze. Good looking watch. I don't think you can get it on leather. I think you're stuck with the silicone thing. So that's a downside, but otherwise it's a very cool watch. Lume is great. And my last runner-up is the Andersman Bronze ANN 0931. 44 millimeters, 16 thick, very expensive, almost $2,000. I like it. Again, for 1,000 meters, that's actually not that thick. Who needs 1,000 meters? Statistically, nobody. It's a very nice looking watch. I like how they do this. There's some subtlety here. There's some precision here in the case shape that I appreciate. And the lume is really nice. So those were the honorable mentions. And something else I have to mention here at the end. I promised I would tell you, I actually ordered a watch. I'm going to tell you which one it was. The bronze watch I'm getting is the Steel Dive 1956S Submersible. You may wonder why wasn't it in the final runoff. Well, it was originally. I told you I did 2 versions of this. This one made it to like number 7. It was in the top 10 in the first time I did the final runoff. And the more I thought about it, it didn't seem right. There shouldn't be a Panerai and a Steel Dive that are essentially the same watch. Both of those in the top 10. So I took it out. I love that Panerai, so I got the homage. That one's coming in the mail, and I am pumped for this thing. There's very little about it on the internet, so when I review it, that'll be the only review there is of this watch, probably. The lume was not that great on this one, unfortunately, but I'm really excited to get this thing. That's all I have on the bronze dive watches. And if you've watched my channel before, you know after I talk about watches, I like to talk about the Bible. So that's what I'm going to do now. All right, Bible time. My disclaimer is that I'm not a pastor or biblical scholar. I just like to share the Bible with other people. That's why I do these videos. Today I'm continuing the series on the fruits of the Spirit with the fourth fruit, forbearance. The passage is found in Galatians 5, verse 22 through 24. But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, forbearance, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Against such things there is no law. Those who belong to Christ Jesus have crucified the flesh with its passions and desires. This word forbearance is also translated as patience by most English translations. Before I get into patience, I need to reiterate that this is about fruits of the Spirit, i.e. the Holy Spirit. One person of the Trinity of God. On our own willpower, we can experience weak versions of these fruits. This is my opinion. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. However, to experience these fruits in their fullness, we need the working of the Holy Spirit. Speaking personally, since I've been saved, I've experienced these fruits in much more abundance than I ever did before, and I ever could have imagined. Prior to accepting Christ, I could exert a tremendous effort of will and experience some kind of kindness or love or self-control, but it was tentative and weak. In contrast, now that I've accepted Christ, I find myself in situations where without any effort at all, I'm filled with a supernatural peace or joy or patience that's coming from outside myself. It's not an effort of my will. It just kind of comes. It's coming from the Holy Spirit. I'm in the driver's seat of my life and God says, take a break. He takes the wheel and it's completely effortless when this happens. And this phenomenon has become fairly commonplace in my life. It's to the point where I don't even always realize. I just note at the moment, wow, this is really nice. God is working through me in a way that I can't myself. And that's not to say that I don't still have bursts of anger or impatience or that sort of thing. Of course I do. I'm just saying there's a difference to the fruits. The fruits aren't through an exertion of my will. It's a gift from the Holy Spirit. It's supernatural. Yeah, so that was just kind of the introduction to the fruits of the Spirit thing. I need to have some kind of introduction every time I do these. All right, so we're on the fourth fruit, forbearance, and the word is macrothumia. It's Strong's 3115. The New International Version is the one that translates it as forbearance. The ESV, NASB, NRSV translations all translate it as patience. So that's why I said that's the most common English translation. I think patience is the one that's used the most. The King James Version and the New King James Version translate it as long-suffering. And that actually probably makes the most sense etymologically, as you'll see. The reason I went with the NIV is because my kids use NIV at school. That's what their school has them use for their Bible study. So that's just the one I use for this Galatians 5 passage. Most of the time, that's what I use for the Bible verses. But yeah, forbearance, patience, long-suffering. This word, macrothumia, it means slow to anger. And there's another very closely related word called hupomone. It's Strong's 5281. And that one's translated as patience in the sense of enduring hardship. So I think it's helpful to kind of compare these two words because they're very similar. So I'll start off with the fruit of the Spirit one, macrothumia. So macrothumia, and I apologize if I'm pronouncing it totally wrong, but the word comes from macros, long, and thumos, anger. So it's the opposite of being short-tempered. It's like being long-tempered. That's why the King James Version uses the word long-suffering, because it has that long part of it. Examples in the Bible often apply to God. God being incredibly slow to anger with us. His anger is not swift. He's long-tempered. 1 Peter 3, verse 19 through 21 is a great example. After being made alive, he went and made proclamation to the imprisoned spirits, to those who were disobedient long ago when God waited patiently in the days of Noah while the ark was being built. In it, only a few people, 8 in all, were saved through water. And this water symbolizes baptism that now saves you also. Not the removal of dirt from the body, but the pledge of a clear conscience towards God. That last part is really cool, but it's not necessarily relevant to today. But God waited patiently, and God made the decision to flood the earth and only save 8 people. And then he was very, very patient while Noah built the ark. My daughter pointed this out. It took Noah 120 years to build that ark. So that is patience. Once you understand how long it took, yes, that is a long time. That is God being patient with his anger. And the background, so you know why God was angry, background is found in Genesis 6, verses 5 through 8, and then verse 13 I tagged on as well. Verse 14, he tells Noah to build the ark. But anyway, here's that passage I just said. The Lord saw how great the wickedness of the human race had become on the earth, and that every inclination of the thoughts of the human heart was only evil all the time. The Lord regretted that he had made human beings on the earth, and his heart was deeply troubled. Ugh, that's tough to read. So the Lord said, I will wipe from the face of the earth the human race I have created, and with them the animals, the birds, and the creatures that move along the ground, for I regret that I have made them. But Noah found favor in the eyes of the Lord. And then here's a break. There's some other verses in between. So God said to Noah, I'm going to put an end to all people, for the earth is filled with violence because of them. I'm surely going to destroy both them and the earth. And then God tells him to build the ark. So that's macrothumia. God being incredibly patient, waiting those 120 years. In contrast, hupomone comes from hupo, under, and meno, to abide. So to remain under something. It means being steadfast, enduring in the face of trials. It's more like enduring suffering or adversity. The NIV translates it as perseverance, persevering. So it includes the idea of perseverance subsequently leading to spiritual maturity or growth. And I've got a couple passages of hupomone. One of the famous examples is in James 1, verse 3 to 4. Because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Let perseverance finish its work, so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything. So there's that maturity, the spiritual maturity there, that comes as a result of enduring difficulty. Another example of hupomone is found in Romans 5, verse 3 and 4. Not only so, but we also glory in our sufferings, because we know that suffering produces perseverance. Perseverance, character, and character, hope. In order to understand that passage, it is important to read these words. The Greek doesn't always translate exactly. For example, patience. Both of these words, hupomone and macrothumia, they can both be translated as patience, but they're different ideas. They're similar ideas. The fruit one, macrothumia, it has the specific element of delayed anger. And I'll give more examples of that, of Bible verses for macrothumia. Yeah, you can kind of put them in two buckets. God being patient with us, and us being patient with each other. So I'll give you some examples of both of those. God being patient with us. Here's some examples. Romans 2, verse 4. Or do you show contempt for the riches of his kindness, forbearance, and patience, not realizing that God's kindness is intended to lead you to repentance? Yet God often withholds his anger with us so that we can come to repentance. 2 Peter 3, verse 15. Bear in mind that our Lord's patience means salvation, just as our dear brother Paul also wrote you with the wisdom that God gave him. Our salvation comes from God's patience. Here's another one on that topic. 1 Timothy 1, verse 15 and 16. Here's a trustworthy saying that deserves full acceptance. Christ Jesus came into the world to save sinners, of whom I am the worst. But for that very reason I was shown mercy, so that in me, the worst of sinners, Christ Jesus might display his immense patience, macrothumia, as an example for those who would believe in him and receive eternal life. God had immense patience with Paul so that he could display it for others, and those others would believe in Christ and have eternal life. Yeah, I mentioned mercy there, and mercy is something that's coming to my mind through all of this. God delaying his anger, being merciful so that we have that opportunity to repent of our sins. There are numerous examples of God's patience in the Old Testament too. Here are a couple of them. Obviously, it's not macrothumia. It's written in Hebrew, not Greek. But here's a couple examples. Psalm 86:15. But you, Lord, are a compassionate and gracious God, slow to anger, abounding in love and faithfulness. God is slow to anger. It's a recurring theme all throughout the Old Testament. There's tons of them. I'll just do one more. Nehemiah 9, verse 17. They refused to listen and failed to remember the miracles you performed among them. They became stiff-necked and in their rebellion appointed a leader in order to return to their slavery. The Jews were willing to go back to their slavery. But you are a forgiving God, gracious and compassionate, slow to anger, and abounding in love. Therefore you did not desert them, even when they cast for themselves an image of a calf, and said, "This is your God who brought you up out of Egypt," or when they committed awful blasphemies. God stayed with his people, even in the face of these horrible things that surely should have angered God, but he was slow to anger, as it says in the passage. And it's a major theme in the Bible. The good aspects of God we should try to emulate. That's what these fruits of the Spirit are. It's a gift of God, making us more conform to his attributes. All right, so here are some examples of macrothumia being like us humans being patient with each other. And the first one is Ephesians 4, verses 1 through 3. As a prisoner for the Lord, then, I urge you to live a life worthy of the calling you have received. Paul is calling us to live our lives to a high standard. Be completely humble and gentle. Be patient, bearing one another in love. Make every effort to keep the unity of the Spirit through the bond of peace. Keeping unity, it's just bearing one another with love. That means, okay, somebody did something that kind of angers me. I'm going to be slow to anger. I'm going to bear it in love. Second example is 1 Corinthians 13, verses 4 through 6. So famous. Love is patient. Love is kind. It does not envy. It does not boast. It is not proud. It does not dishonor others. It is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered. There's another, not easily angered. Keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. Love never fails. The perseveres there, that's our other one. Hupamona. What was it called? Hupamone. So that's kind of, the green one is hupamone. The yellow one is macrothumia. They're both in this passage. There's actually some other passages where you see both of them. They do kind of go together. Like I said, they are similar ideas. But this specific one today, the patient one, it's about being slow to anger, long-tempered. Okay, a couple more. 2 Corinthians 6, verses 3 through 6. We put no stumbling block in anyone's path so that our ministry will not be discredited. Rather, as servants of God, we commend ourselves in every way. Again, trying to have that high standard of behavior. In great endurance, in troubles, hardships and distresses, in beatings, imprisonments and riots, in hard works, sleepless nights and hunger, in purity, understanding, patience and kindness. There's that patience, macrothumia. In the Holy Spirit and in sincere love. And he keeps going because Paul writes long sentences. Being slow to anger. And it is saying endurance too, kind of enduring a lot of trouble and hardship. And that, I guess that would be hupamona. So we got them both there kind of. This is my last verse, 2 Timothy 4, verses 2 through 3. Preach the word, be prepared in season and out of season, correct, rebuke, and encourage, with great patience and careful instruction. Okay, why do we need great patience? For the time will come when people will not put up with sound doctrine. Instead, to suit their own desires, they will gather around them a great number of teachers to say what their itching ears want to hear. We see that today. People choose teachers who tell them what they want to hear. And it's saying to teachers who are preaching the word, have great patience. Have great patience with those who abandon sound doctrine and instead gather around teachers who say what their itching ears want to hear. Okay, so this whole concept of being slow to anger is an area I need to grow in. I absolutely need to grow in this. Like I said when I was discussing the fruits of the Spirit in my last video, it's a mistake to sit back and wait for the Holy Spirit to just fix us. I don't believe that this list of the fruits of the Spirit is like, I'm just going to sit around and wait until God makes me more loving or patient or kind or good. No, we need to take an active role. The fruits of the Spirit are aspirational as well. Paul repeatedly, in so many letters, he instructs whoever he's writing to, here's a laundry list of things a Christian should be like. Do that. So if it was only a supernatural work of God in us, And how do you define supernatural? Because I believe that this Bible is supernatural. I believe it was given to us supernaturally. I think it's a miracle that we have this Bible. It's a wonderful thing. But also, beyond that, beyond me just reading words, comprehending them, exerting my will to make it happen in my life, there's what I was talking about earlier, where the Holy Spirit literally just takes the wheel sometimes. So it's both. It's aspirational in that it should be our goal to conform to these fruits of the Spirit, but it's also that the Holy Spirit will step in, especially if that's what I want. If I want the Holy Spirit to take the wheel, it's more likely to happen. On our own power, we're never going to achieve these fruits of the Spirit to their fullness. That's all I've got. Next time, I'm going to do the 5th fruit, which is kindness. And I think that'll be interesting. I think our modern conception of kindness may not be exactly what the biblical version of kindness is. I'm excited to find those verses about kindness and see what comes up. If you want better biblical analysis, I've linked 4 pastors in the description with YouTube channels. Check them out. They're all great. And I've linked my personal church as well. And now I'll close with a prayer. Lord, I thank you so much for being slow to anger, for being long-suffering, for being patient with us, your children, for just being patient with your creation. After that flood, you gave us the rainbow as a sign that you were not going to flood the world again. And I'm so grateful. I know there are many times in history, maybe when the earth should have been flooded due to the immense evil on the earth. So thank you for being patient with us and giving us that opportunity to repent and come to you. Lord, I pray if there's anyone watching this who has not accepted Jesus as their Savior, I pray that they would do so. Please lead them. And Lord, thank you for this time. And thank you for saving us and being patient. I pray all this in Jesus' name. Now may the Lord of peace himself give you peace always and in every way. The Lord be with you all. See you next time.